Help
connected my house
me.
to Vincent.
People
Go to
who
my house and tell me the coordinates so I can go there.
whoever is watching this stream currently, help me. Help me,
Oh, one
please.
person
Help me
is.
dearly. Yes, one person is. I feel like it's random person.
It's random.
Either that or it's JC.
Is she random?
Oh,
person?
and the door closed itself. Great. You know what? Let's turn on desktop audio just so you can hear whatever song requests come on.
So I'm gonna help you. Oh, stay away. Wrong way.
Oh, look, it is random person. Then I will help. It's too late, random person. They are already all here. Well, 3 of them are.
Oh, you can also say because it's viewers one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got 3 places to see how many viewers I have. You got one
Here
here,
you are.
you got one over here, and then you got
Does
one.
anyone have a piece of paper? I need to memorize the coordinates.
No.
I do.
You get no pieces of paper. Oh yeah, and
Son
I moved my green
Here,
screen
I'll
out of the
show
way, so now
Oh,
you can
can
see a
he
little bit
see
more of my
The
room.
person, can he see us?
Whatever he sees on that, whatever's on this screen, they can see.
Hey!
This is my friend Lydia.
Can they hear us?
She's the Millie on. She's Millie on the NPM server. That's Vincent, also known as Vincent on the NPM server. Random person is one of the members on the NPM server. The one that you abandoned. No, stop it. So yeah.
What are you doing?
I have a feeling that this guy is really intimidated, but not at the same time.
I started making your report
no.
57
Frick,
too.
frick, frick, frick.
Probably will finish tomorrow. Oh, alright.
I'm
Nice.
gonna pass out.
What are you doing?
Wait, what? He's talking.
I see all and hear all. Yes.
Is that the person that's streaming with it?
You're a devil.
Random person, are you intimidated or no?
I'm going to guess no.
Yeah, he's
I'm
probably
hoping
not.
no. I extremely hope no, because if you're intimidated by this bunch of wackos, then you've really done
There's gonna
something
be
wrong
like
with your
6 more
life.
people, so let's go. Alright.
I found an electric fly.
You do not play
I
with
saw
this.
that. That was sketchy.
You do not play with this. You get out of my chair as well.
No, you're a devil because
Liv,
you're a no.
Liv, tell me the coordinates. I need to memorize this.
I know.
Hi, I'm Ben, and
Where
this is my
am I?
gaming channel, and I'm gonna be
No,
playing Minecraft today, and I'm showing you how to build a castle.
Wherever you are. Okay.
Yeah, you want to know the great
Alright.
thing is I can just do whatever I want and none of you will know.
He's talking. He's talking.
Am I intimidated? What kind of question is that? Of course I am. Okay, you've done something completely wrong with
Do
your
you know
life. I
Spanish?
see.
Because I do. I'm good.
That's not Spanish.
That's
Kitty.
extreme.
No, that's French. That's French.
This is extremely spook.
Don't you touch me.
Hey, no, don't be so rough. Don't be so rough. You see this? This costs over $1,000. If this gets damaged, one of you is paying for it.
But I like to throw children that are innocent.
$1,000. I just need 600 more.
I'm only 8, Katie.
Move! I'm doing the renegade.
No.
Yes.
No.
When I go in.
Yes. Random person, do you think Katie is mean?
Help me.
Wow.
Help me, please. You know what? I'm having a mint. You don't get a
Done.
mint.
No, I'm trying really hard. I'm just a kid in life, and I don't.
The best one here,
Katie, don't throw me out.
the only one who's being actually good here right now is Vincent, because he's just playing on the NPM server.
Yeah.
Katie.
I'm throwing children that are innocent.
Katie.
That just sounds wrong
We
on so many levels.
we must kick her out. We must.
We must kick her out. Okay. Wait.
No.
40, 67.
Ben, what if I
89.
speak in my interpolable?
Encryptions, maybe?
What's that?
I'm just gonna move.
I think I know. Hopefully I know, because if I don't know, then I won't be able to understand what he's saying. And I just realized the overlay, the gameplay. No.
Yeah, I'm replacing my water with milk
No.
because I have a feeling it will
No.
be useful later on.
This is a professional channel. We have professional standards. Actually, no, we don't. We have no
What's
standards.
the child saying? And how old is that child anyway?
I'm not sure.
How old are you?
Random
This is-
person, I bet feels so bad.
His name is Peter.
Perhaps. Yay!
Wait, is that amazing?
Mayhaps.
Peter, how old are you?
If he actually says his age.
I hear somebody coming up. Come on in.
Hello.
Hello.
Guys!
Welcome to the cancer that is my stream. If you step over here, you will be seen live
He
to the
says
entire
one's
world.
movement, and I am yelling at this person that's streaming.
Oh no. Katie, do you see what has happened to the camera?
No!
Oh no.
Katie, you suck. You just suck. That's it. You suck.
Also, no shoes in here, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You suck like a potato.
I'm mainly talking to Katie.
You suck like
Yeah,
a
I
potato.
did go biking today, so I can't blame you.
Yeah.
She sucks like a potato.
I remember when Katie would just walk over here barefoot.
I still do, by the way.
Yeah, I know you do.
Darn it, my shoelaces are too tight.
I remember where I am. That is.
Oh
so
shoot,
cool.
I don't know your secret code then. Yeah, anybody can take that chair if they want. Decrypt the message, Ben.
What?
What? Who? Where?
I'm so
where?
interested by this random person.
I don't think I can decrypt that, Peter.
Peter Vincent.
Do you know him?
No, I only know him online.
Stranger.
I'm sorry, I cannot decrypt that, Peter.
Oh, frick.
I hear fly! Fly must die!
He's got
Stranger danger!
Where's the electric swatter? Oh no. I'm scared.
Can I do
That is sketchy.
Alright, it's good.
Can you do my finger? I already did it twice.
Alright.
Kind of tickles.
I'm sorry, Peter. I don't understand that type
I
of
don't
stuff.
really feel pain.
This is my cancer.
Not
I'm
really,
smacking my
that's why I
mic.
can do
Don't mind that.
God.
It doesn't work. Especially when I do it in jeans.
See? Look,
How
it's
many 67 activities?
Oh yeah, so that's something I wanted to show you all.
Peter backflip in jeans.
So if any of you didn't know, I have a drone with a camera. So let me just replace the battery here because I've got something to show you all. That is epic. You can run the stream for now, Lid. Just don't press any
It's hard
buttons.
with jeans,
Okay.
but I can do forward.
Thank you.
I don't like it.
My back's not so low.
Ben said I could.
I found out you can do backward rolls when you
And be
go
careful
in.
with that chair; it is slowly falling apart.
Oh,
Speaking
that's
of which, back
I'm
here
doing a
there
backward
is
roll thing.
a metal
No, I
pole
made- I
that needs
made it up.
fixing.
Okay.
Alright. Yeah, actually, excuse me for a moment. Can you? Thank you.
It's really cool. This guy's like,
I need to take this chair, push it back.
Why is everything pixelated?
That's because that is the camera's
What if the
quality.
whole
It
world's
is horrible.
pixelated and no one knows?
It looks like I have slime on my hair.
Did you know most human beings see at around 1,000 FPS? Or,
wow.
Mhm.
I have a house.
Somebody was actually able to get Minecraft to run at 3,000 FPS. So, and that was, and of course that was they ran it
Whose
in
is
like the alpha.
Is
That's
this
mine.
yours?
No, that's mine.
Oh, cool.
That's my old one.
Here you go. Can I smash it?
No.
Darn it.
Because that is useful for what we're going to be doing with the
Really?
drone.
Oh, well, because yesterday I actually smashed 2 phones.
Oh my gosh, Katie!
They were only SEs.
Katie,
No, she smashed my phone.
Peter, go get.
Yeah, you did. You went.
Your phone has a protective case, though.
Peter,
You did it
go
twice
get.
that time.
Peter, go get JC. He has competition. No, and you're not allowed to sit in this chair right
Peter's
now.
gonna leave soon.
No,
I know it. I know he's gonna do it.
I hope he does. I hope he leaves because of this chaos. Where is that duct tape? There it is.
Duct?
Yeah, it's duct tape. I'm fixing my chair.
It's in the chair.
Katie, leave. You have been kicked out. You are clearly too reckless.
No, leave.
Fine. You're good sitting. Just don't be too chaotic.
But she already is.
She is, but still.
Is that person gone yet?
I have no idea. It still says one viewer on Twitch, so I'm going to guess he's still here. He's just not talking. Which I applaud him for.
Which is a good thing, yeah.
Talk.
No, you don't ask people to talk.
Yes, I do. Now I do. Wait, wait, so whatever I see, he sees, right?
Yeah, whatever you see right on that screen is what he sees.
I see a mouse on my screen.
No, not there. Just like this gray box.
Okay.
So, Ben,
I
I'm
do.
not sure. I might be
Hey!
wrong.
I didn't do anything.
I might be wrong when I say
Yes,
this,
you did.
but
No, I didn't.
when you
Yes,
mine
you
a
did.
beehive
No, I
with a
didn't
bee
miss that.
on it, with a silk touch pickaxe, the bees come with it, right?
Yeah, if the bees are in it.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what that means, Peter.
What?
The whole bee thing?
Oh my
No.
god.
Wait,
There, that should be
Oh.
good for now.
I
Okay.
think I speak his weird language.
Excuse me,
Sort of.
excuse me, Katie.
Raise
Excuse me,
hands.
you two. Excuse me, Lydia.
Uh-huh.
I'm putting it in front of this doorway here.
The doorway.
There we go. All right, let me continue replacing this battery. Don't break anything. All of that equipment in total probably cost around $2,000.
Well, that's bad.
All right, let's unplug that.
I have a ginormous house because it's connected to Vincent's.
No one can speak
What-
your
what?
weird language. Just stop.
They can only see the bottom
Dad,
of
I'm sleeping.
the
I'm
top of
sleeping.
your head.
I know, but he's going yixt. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I know.
Am I allowed to say so?
And honestly,
Vincent.
that's it.
Yes.
Really?
I'm going to have to kick you out as well. That's your first warning. 3 warnings and you're out. Kind of like my Discord server.
I'm scared. I'm so scared.
You should be.
I'm so scared right now.
I want to sleep. Isn't it night?
No, I just made it day, Lid. I
You
slept.
Oh. Oh, I'm too loud.
He's
All right,
still
all
feeling-
connected. Now let's get my phone over here. So who wants to go first? I'm not telling you what it
I'll
is.
do it.
Okay, come sit in the chair.
I like sitting in chair.
Okay, it should auto connect. No, it auto connected to that.
Are you gonna zap me?
No.
Are you gonna? Can I fly the drone?
You could, no, you're not allowed to fly the drone.
What
is happening?
Alright, let it connect. Come on.
Alright,
let me quickly
My feet go back and forth.
Vincent about to murder up in here. Okay, rude. Vincent about to murder up in here. Ben, do you know Pig Latin and do they? I might. I've done it only a few times, but I might.
Oh, I know Pig Latin. I can translate for you.
Is
That's what I
that
was gonna
wait? Is
say.
that Pig Latin? That's
Say
your
Adelaide.
Who's smithing? That is me. I think.
I expe
If you heard the anvil, that was me.
If you cannot roll around the chair, okay, Katie? Take a seat. Okay, who wants to do this? Whoever wants to do this, sit in that chair.
Who wants to do what?
I'm not telling
The
you.
VR.
No, not the VR. Better than the
VR.
VR.
What?
Better than the VR. It's the VR.
All right, let me make sure this is all good. Yep. Okay, put this on.
It is the VR.
Well, soldier.
I said put it on. Now
Why
don't
is this-
make it go around your head.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna
Here. Would you like me to
ignore
help you adjust the
that.
strap?
Yes, I have a tiny head.
Yeah.
Well, your head's big compared to mine.
Okay. Stop rolling around in this. Okay.
I'm not really spinning.
No spinning around in it either. Is that too much or is that good? Nope.
It's fine.
All right. Ready?
Oh,
Yep, she's hating what the drone sees.
Hi, Katie!
I'm gonna murder that drone. Yeah. This is scary.
Stop.
So how was that?
Yeah.
Well, I can see the carpet and it's blue,
And you see my hand?
and I see someone's toes.
Those are my toes.
Ew, they're really, really dirty, Vincent.
Actually, I think those are Ben's because I have socks on.
No, camera's pointing towards you.
Frick.
Those are his fingers then.
fingers.
I can see Vincent's pants.
Why are you saying these things?
Why not?
You suck.
Oh, you keep turning on the fan. There.
Well, I'm literally just hurting you. Go in Jordan's room.
Why? Because she's not there?
No, I go in there every day. I just want to see. Wait, filming myself.
Interesting.
Wait, I'm trying to turn towards you. Hi. Wait. Why does it make the carpet purple?
Because the colors are mixing.
Yeah, red and blue make a purple.
Lydia, I'm not that dumb.
You are the dog.
So who wants to go next?
Oh, I do!
Definitely not
Okay.
me. I don't.
Get out of the chair. And stop spinning around in it. Yes, random Peter, I did read your message. Okay, put this on. Alright, you ready?
Whoa, what? Whoa.
Oh!
I can see these!
Hey, Peter, I fell down the ravine like a horse.
Go into Jordan's room!
You suck.
Oh!
Wait, what happened?
Hey, be careful. This is expensive. I hit my door.
What? Who is that? What? Why is that missing? Oh, wait, what's this? Ben, he said you look like a silly person.
No. What?
He's talking in Pig Latin.
He said,
Oh, it's so annoying screenshot.
I think it's not.
Enbe, uye, okle, ikle, aye, ilise, ursampe. You look like a silly person, Ben.
I feel sick.
You stop.
Okay, we're good.
I feel sick having this on.
Stop with the air pump.
Random Peter person 57
Who are
underscore
you,
you.
by the way?
I'm Aiden.
I'm Aiden. Yes.
Alright.
And you,
So who wants the next?
and you can expe in,
Alright.
say,
Just the
expe
strap is
at
needed. I know
mais,
you have a larger head
extra
than
mark
these two.
quay.
Although I might have to change
All
out the
of
battery of the drone here. in a little bit.
Email on a. Ben, he said he's gotta go eat food. Bye.
Alright, see you, Peter. Alright, you ready?
Go bye bye. Yo say.
This is annoying. What was that?
Looks like it needs a battery change. Oh, jeez. The room is smoky.
It is smoky, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, if you couldn't tell already.
I couldn't tell already.
Alright, can I see the, can I see that, please, Katie? Thank you.
IYSA. Wait, Vin, you have 2 viewers now.
Cool.
Uh-oh.
What?
Then you're gonna see us be weird. Who's the other dude? Tuck.
Oh my god.
Katie, you can't just request people to talk.
So,
I just
in
did.
case you haven't noticed, and if you're new, this is the annoying
I
Katie.
said hi.
Oh my god. No.
No. What have you done?
She said hi. In the chat.
In the
You sent it to all 3.
In the
Oh my.
chat.
Yes. I'm sorry, you can literally say hi on the live stream.
Hi.
Also, anybody who's watching, if you're in the Discord, you can join us. We are currently in Group Talk 049.
Hey, Ben,
Yeah?
you know where that 3-prong to 2-prong adapter, that gray adapter
Yes.
is? Can you throw it down?
Sure. Alright.
I bet he's literally gonna throw it down.
Yeah, that's what we do around here.
See it.
Kitty,
That's the news.
stop scaring everybody away.
Stop it.
I will spray you
Oh.
like a cat.
Someone left. I scared them.
I know.
In case you haven't noticed that.
Can I say hi again?
No.
I just.
Katie, get away from the keyboard and everything. Katie,
Katie.
away from.
Katie. Katie.
There's a balloon.
This
Do
is
you guys have balloons that are blown up?
That's the only one. Oh my gosh.
But she doesn't like you.
I can tell.
No, that's not true.
that doesn't
No,
make
you hurt,
things
like,
any
everywhere.
better.
Hey Vincent.
Yeah.
Well.
I knew it.
Actually, Nate, Utre.
Katie, do you have any idea how hard this
Way?
thing? Don't play around with the blinds, please.
With the wines?
The blinds. There's a difference between whatever you said and blinds. I didn't hear what you said.
Ue. Eshe.
I thought you
Irhe.
said wines.
Oh no. You think I drink?
At this age, I thought you did, actually.
Oh my gosh, what did Katie?
I didn't do anything.
You pressed a button.
I didn't. I promise.
She
Yes, you
pressed
did.
the
You
button.
pressed the monitor button.
I literally just left.
You pressed this button right here.
Do it. I want to see it happen.
I can tell because
yeah, I can't sleep.
Why?
I'm going sticky, really sticky
Alright, there we go.
situation. Involving getting out of a ravine.
No, stop, Katie.
I forgot that I.
Out of the chair. Out of the chair.
Oh, wait.
You're not allowed in this chair.
Oh, it's
Understand?
Ben's base. Yay!
Oh, you got to my base.
Yeah. And what cow farm are you talking about? I'm so confused.
Who are you talking about?
I am so
Oh, jeez, you have a really low render
Your what
distance. One of my friends.
What's her name?
Okay, well, something has happened the last time I was here.
Oh,
Because now
Your
there's a big
girlfriend.
acacia barn. The guy
Is
now
he
has...
a girl?
What?
Logan. It's a girl.
so where's the rest of the people at?
Where are the people's at? No!
There's a fly in my room. Where is the chocolate?
It's in her gosh dang closet.
I'm gonna step away. Wait,
So look away, look away. Jeffrey the first. Rachel the right?
What?
What?
Rachel the
I just killed a fly, that's all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Alright, you know what?
Dubstep is Peter.
Cool. Yeah, Amazing Dubstep is Peter or random person.
Or random.
57YT.
I'm gonna go get something to eat.
Okay, well, I feel bad. I wanted to ask him if he wanted the emerald / diamond eye replaced.
Well, today I'm gonna decorate.
Why he have blue sheep?
What?
Why?
Why not? I don't see a problem with that. Well, looks like Peter's just lurking in the background. He's probably going to be back in a few moments because it's Peter.
It's Peter.
I'm decorating today.
I wanted to
Nice.
I'm sorry for leaving you behind.
All right.
This is extremely annoying.
You know what? I'm gonna go do something.
Like what? Can
This,
you say?
yeah, this stream is very boring now that I realize it. I thought it was going to be more chaotic, kind of like the Halloween stream.
The Halloween stream.
Yeah, I don't think you were here. Actually, wait, you were, weren't you? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, that one. That was a little more than I could handle.
So, who wants to try this VR out with the drone?
I might as well. So.
All right, come take a seat in the chair.
Okay. This is
Sketchy. I don't think you know what sketchy means.
It's scary. My dimensions.
No. All right.
Can I have one of your blue sheep, Ben?
Those are my blue sheep.
Aww.
They are Peter's sheep.
But I was just there.
You didn't say that he. Oh, no way.
I saw that he had blue sheep. I'm not stupid.
Also, near that pen should be a cow pen. That's the cow pen that the block kept appearing in.
Oh yeah. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, that.
It did. The railroad system is complete. We can ride there now on minecarts.
Yay! I'm gonna go get my card. Wait, do I have it? Yeah, I have it with me.
All right, where?
It's so cold.
Why are there so many zombies with shovels?
Ben, I'm cold.
Hold on. Okay, put it on.
This is gonna be torture. Yay. Hang on. Okay. Okay. Why are you flying it outside?
Cause why not?
You suck. You know I can hardly see you, right?
Yeah.
I'm riding the railroad. Are you riding the railroad?
Oh, I see you, Lid. Hi.
I don't see you.
To the right. Behind you. To the right behind you. To the left behind you. Okay, never mind.
This is crazy.
I'm sorry, did
So
you take
many
off the...
cars.
Okay. Oh, that's it.
Okay.
That was hard to control. Yes, that's what I just said. It's extremely hard to control when you have the headset on.
Oh, this is where it leads to.
We're... Wow.
Alright, let's try this.
Lid, I was seriously...
Okay, yeah, no.
Lid.
That's not going to work well.
Hey.
Hey.
Berries.
Yeah, I know. I put them there.
Did. How'd you get sweet berries?
What?
You took them from me. Okay.
No, I didn't take
You
them.
did. Because he's the only one who has sweet berries.
Alright, whoop. Oh, look, somebody else is in the chat. Hello, friend. No, you haven't talked yet, but I can tell there's somebody else there on Twitch. Yes, Twitch. Hello.
Okay. I'm
Get a honey bottle.
You mean a bottle?
To get honey.
I know.
Don't seem like you know.
I know. I know.
But do you know? I don't think you know.
I have like 16 more bottles unless Lydia took them all.
I love how on this webcam it says HD, but yet the quality is subpar.
Lydia took all my honey bottles. Okay.
No, I didn't take
Lydia,
any
you've
honey
been caught.
I didn't take any honey bottles.
Whoa, she exploded.
Vincent,
Oh no. Wait, I hear bees.
Joe made me kick
I
you
hear
out.
bees. Yes.
Where? You got bees?
Yeah.
How'd you get bees?
I collected a beehive. It's so exciting.
I already had bees.
I know, but you built a beehive. I have a bee nest.
Mm-hmm. I already had bees.
I know that.
Vince, I can't get my minecart back.
What do you mean?
You know, I might go take
You're in
this
sleep
down to the
mode,
parents to see what they say.
Yeah, so I don't fall.
So you want to go outside?
Um,
You want to fly
No,
outside?
I don't want to go back.
Gosh, you're in the. It's so wide. It's impossible for you to fall.
Nothing's impossible.
A lot of things are impossible.
Note block music.
Oh my gosh.
Lydia, you wore those clothes yesterday.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. I was with you.
No, I
Right.
didn't.
Alright, let's see. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
there is an
10.
actual bee. Let's go.
There's a bee in the room.
Shotgun.
Vincent, can you please get me a bee?
No, I cannot get you a bee. I mean, unless I breed them. So yeah.
Alright, you ready, Katie?
Hello.
Vincent, how do I destroy this? How do I destroy this thing?
You just hop out and go. Yeah. You gotta learn a lot of Minecraft. A lot of it.
How do you breed a bee?
This is what I have to deal with every day.
Someone's coming up your driveway.
I can see.
Ben's messing with this drone.
Oh, 3 people are. I think it's Anna. Oh, no, it's not.
No. Anna cannot come in here.
It's not Anna. It's,
Yes.
it's, but Anna's gonna be here, you know.
No.
Why, do you not like Anna?
I don't like her,
She's really nice.
but she's not. She tortured me yesterday.
Yeah, she's not nice because you were her.
It's the Blights.
It's the Blythes.
No, it's not.
Wait, is the Blythes?
Yeah, it is. Or no, not the Blights, the Burges. Sorry.
It's the Birders?
Burgess. It's, Ethan and, or Finn and Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan and Victoria as well.
Your
Alright.
screw's not on tight enough.
What do you mean?
On the deck, I can see the screws unscrew a little bit.
Yeah, I know. That deck is not safe whatsoever. That's why I use it. Alright, can I see that?
You're a bee.
I took a video of the last few seconds of the flight. So let's see what this looks like. Gallery.
I think I have some extra letters.
What the? Wait, what? Where's the video? Ah, dang it. Oh. Would you like to try that again, Katie?
But
Alright.
I'm cold.
Okay, I'll close the door in a moment. Let me just replace the battery here.
I think there is a
Welcome.
Hello.
Would you like to try out the drone? I think there's somebody behind you.
Ugh.
Okay,
No.
who would like to try out the VR drone?
I am fine with
Besides you.
There's a lot more people.
Would you like to
here.
try out the
3,
seeing this
6,
through VR? Okay,
8
sit down in the chair,
Eight.
Katie. I'm gonna have to ask you to move. Thank you. All right, let me.
There's
Just...
3
I
viewers
don't
now.
know if there are
Oh,
bees
seriously? Has
anymore.
anybody said anything in chat that I just haven't read?
Nope, it's just my H.
my age.
And why is there anyone watching this? We're literally just talking. It's
I
so
know,
boring.
that's the thing. People just watch random
Oh!
things because they're
Oh, I think I
bored.
scared them. Now there's only one viewer.
Just looks up no, just sees your face in the camera. I'm going away.
Yeah, not that.
I'm
This
not
isn't my
surprised,
place thing.
especially with Katie.
Okay, drone is on.
Drone is
Controller
on.
is on.
Computer's on.
Who's even viewing?
Connected.
Like,
Okay, let's see if this is connected.
There's gotta be
Not
bees.
connected.
Please let there be bees.
Ben, how do you see who's streaming or viewing it?
What
You
is
can't see
that?
who is viewing it. You only know.
I think
that
it's the
they're-
random person dude.
Yeah, I know.
You're a
Peter's
dummy.
probably just stalking in the background.
That's kind of creepy.
I found a way to get back easily through my portal. Yay.
Okay, did I? Okay, we're good. All right, put this on.
Are you even gonna
Ben.
make me
Yeah?
a bee?
Oh, the
I am
ground, that's the
surprised I did this.
That's the
I
most
am
amazing
terrible
view. It's
with
the ground.
redstone. I'm terrible with redstone, and I'm very surprised I did that.
Okay, nice. Okay, it's recording.
Venus Prime!
So I can go to Ben's place and steal his stuff and then come back.
Come on. No, Wind.
Hey, Ben!
Wind, bring my drone back.
Oh! Stop.
Frick!
Ben,
Yeah?
Vincent said he's gonna steal your stuff.
I'm kidding.
That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, I can tell.
Did it fall off the balcony?
It just fell.
It just fell.
No, it fell onto the balcony.
Oh, hey, at least he came back.
Go!
Is he actually?
I
think
hate
so,
you,
yeah.
Creeper! You're the Venus!
Oh, hello.
What?
Vincent, you know the rules.
I
Sick
know the
words per minute.
rules,
The
yeah.
English teacher must be so proud.
All right, give me a moment, Trinity. I'm trying to fix the drone here.
Yeah, I got a beautiful view of that.
I got it.
Yeah. There's a hand. Yeah, I see your hand. That's a beautiful hand.
That's a beautiful hand.
Okay, there.
Beautiful hand.
Camera's fixed. Now we
It's
should
just
be able to
a
fly.
beautiful hand.
Oh, that's
I have a gold nugget. How come whenever I go through the nether portal, I always get a gold nugget? It sucks.
You get a gold nugget?
Every time I go through the nether portal. Yeah.
Oh my god, you're so lucky.
See? What do you mean? It's a gold nugget.
I like nuggets. And they like gold.
What?
Oh, when?
So gold plus nugget equals gold nugget. Why do I have a redstone torch?
I don't know. You probably stole it. Oh, yeah, you stole it. That's why that was activated.
Alright.
You broke it and stole it.
Too much power.
This is a fun ride.
That's a fly zapper.
Oh, that means
Sure is.
battery.
Don't zap anyone with it. It is pretty
Understand.
to the flies.
No, too fast. Not that way. No.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
you should have made it into the hoop. That would have been funny.
Hold up. That might be.
Almost landing.
Actually, no, I won't be.
You might have been. It's like, it's
Did
confusing.
it? I got it.
This confuses my eyes.
All right. Well. And it's. All right. That's it. Pretty cool, right? Now I got it back up. I got it to fly all the way back
Oh,
up.
Skelly Baron!
Just leave her down there. No,
Sure, you
Ben,
don't want to try?
Ben, you should have just threw her still down there in the tree. Don't get it.
In my house!
All right. Let's see if it took the
And
recording.
it's killing me! How?
Sick Waluigi me.
Oh, wait, video. Oh, guys, I think I got. Oh, whoa, that is. Look at this.
What are those?
Oh!
Why are you
oh! I drowned! I drowned!
Why are you live in the
Lucky
first
day.
place?
Because why not? People like to watch this because they're bored with life. Kind of like me.
Wait,
That's why I stream.
Wait, is this like all the people that
I
Those
killed
are
the
all
Skelly
my
Baron. I
followers,
killed
yes.
the Baron that
No, but,
burst
like,
into my house because I am a
how do you
fool.
see the people that are like
Viewing, you can't see that. You can only see how many.
No.
And 3 different places. You can see one on the main monitor, one on the secondary monitor, and one on the stream deck to your left.
There's too many monitors. I don't know where any of these are.
I know that.
Wait, is it this thing? What the heck is
So why are you saying because you have a pool, monsters are going into your room? That is
Anyways.
not logic.
Anyways, let me. Oh, my camera fell back off. I'm gonna have to fix that again. Thankfully, the camera is a clip camera, so
We aren't
If it
really doing
falls off.
anything with the stream. I think we should just end it.
no. Hey, what do you think you're doing?
I said hi.
Oh my gosh.
That's the same problem with Katie.
Yeah, Katie did the exact same thing earlier.
I just want to say hi.
Or, yo, you the girl, or are you watching the girl?
I'm so confused.
Watching.
What?
Yo, you the girl, or are you watching the girl?
What?
And
Are
the
you
sound is really low.
the sound? Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of.
Ah! I fixed it.
Hopefully you're not
I
wearing
can't
headphones.
really fix that. Okay, I got a question for the girl. I'm guessing you mean Trinity here.
Okay.
Cause go straight ahead. Nobody cares.
Wait,
Why are
I'm
you
a girl
hating?
too. I'm a girl too. Wait, there's two girls.
There's three.
No.
You stop. There's two girls other
We're
than
watching
you.
the Super Bowl and I'm bored, so good question.
Why are you hanging with these two losers? Oh!
Which way is
Why
the-
hang-
which way is
Which two losers? Is
I
it
don't know,
me
there's-
or Ben?
There's like 4 other people in here.
What is
Which
happening?
two losers?
I got a better idea.
Alright.
What?
There.
Tell us this
What?
question.
I think that's the way it
Oh
goes.
my god, I knew my
Perfect.
hair looks bad. I knew it.
Yeah, when you put it on, you look like a kid struck by lightning. Which
What?
She thinks my hair
Wait.
makes it look like I got struck with
Actually,
You actually do.
It does.
You do.
It really does.
which actually makes sense.
I got
Back up
started.
from the
Especially
camera,
your
people.
idea person.
Especially
Back up from the camera.
with my karma.
Beanie girl, what's your Snapchat?
None.
No, you don't have to type. They can
wait,
hear
wait,
you.
wait,
They
wait,
can
wait,
hear
wait,
you.
wait.
They
Mind
can.
your business.
They can hear you.
You don't need to say that.
They can hear you.
Ows! Don't
Yes, I just
freaking do
smacked.
that.
Okay, you know what?
Mind
Out.
your
You
business.
are not allowed in here if you're going to keep acting like this. Got it?
Yeah.
No.
You said I'm not allowed in there if I'm going to keep acting like that, so I'm not going to act like that. Break it out. Jeez.
All right. Okay, that's one person out.
Demon child.
Ah,
Demon
Where'd
child.
you come from?
With my karma,
Demon.
actually, with my karma and luck, that could actually happen to him and me being struck by lightning. So, yeah. I hate that.
No drinks. You just spilled the drink.
Why are you?
No drinks.
That's her. That's her.
Nose.
CC.
All of them.
Don't type in chat, please. There's no reason to.
Yeah, they're
Hold up. Why are we up to 4 viewers? Who hacked me
Because
again?
Who has hacked them?
Because
I could get like over
Followers.
100 viewers on Instagram. And this
There's a difference between Instagram
but
and
still,
Twitch.
like
There is a
Okay,
difference
okay.
between Instagram and Twitch.
okay, I get it. I get it.
PBC. Excuse me.
what does PBC?
Will you stop with that?
No.
There is a reason
What is
to
it called?
type in
It's an air
chat
horn, but it's not.
because
You said-
you
I would be quiet, but the problem is I can't be quiet sometimes because I have to maintain control.
Maintain control, whatever that means.
Maintaining control, especially when he enjoys blaming the Jews for all our problems.
what?
Are you okay?
What?
is happening?
I'm sorry, what?
You left the game. Who left the game?
Are you Hitler now?
Hitler. Hitler is a cursed man. You should not speak of him.
What? What are I don't know what those are.
Those are like, oh, those are
What
nice.
are those?
Oh, those are gloves. Okay. Hey, what are you doing? No.
20 giant slimes. and
What are
gold
you
mines.
I'm a
doing?
piece out, but Beanie Girl had me later. You kind of chill. My snuff's that guy 991.
Oh, frick.
Lord help me.
Pillager. The pillager of doom.
Oh, Gabrielle.
I'm sorry, what are you doing?
I was fighting poetry.
Gabrielle. Oh! Oh!
Oh,
Gabrielle!
Perfect.
Why?
I
Just
finally
why?
caught you.
Just why not?
Because I don't know.
This
Maybe not be in the middle of the screen, please.
Stop it! Stop! I will kill you.
No, you won't.
I immediately compare size comparison.
Alright, you know what? I'm going to go show some of the parents this. If when I come back up, if I find you guys misbehaving, you are all kicked out.
Oh, I thought you said.
Except
I
for you,
thought you were
because
gonna say
I know
we
he's
would
not
get murdered. All right. No, I think ahead of time.
Kicked out of my life. Thank you very much.
Kicked out.
That is
Wow,
not a bad thing.
that is a very bad thing, actually.
No, I don't.
You don't like your.
No.
What is
Who
your
really-
problem?
Who really does like their life?
Me?
Oh, that's sad.
Oh god.
Wow, you are messed up.
No, I just
Anyone?
have a bad life.
In the chat, tell me if you think she is messed up. That is sad. Oh, okay. I messed up because I messed up myself.
What are you doing?
Oh.
Really?
What you doing? Oh my god. Stop typing in chat. Stop typing in chat.
I'm back.
She's typing in chat.
Hey,
What you doing?
I will. You know what?
I'm gonna smack her, but I don't want to get kicked out, so I'm
I will kick you out if you hit anybody. Anybody.
Anybody.
What about myself?
Anybody.
That included.
I feel like he doesn't know the definition of that. Anybody. Anybody, anybody.
Oh my god, this is so good.
Seriously.
Ah!
Can I try?
It kind of stinks.
Well, I'm watching. Okay. Yeah, I have so much. Wait, hold on.
Yes, I'm just gonna hide in the corner of peanut butter snacks.
I'm doing
I
dice,
really
so
can't-
whenever you die, it's a new
Ow.
one.
I was looking to see for a second.
Yeah, it's so hard because it has such a big scoop. I don't know why it's so
It sounds like Ben is breathing heavily. When he does that, he's like,
Trinity, the ads are on.
I know.
the ads are. Why
Oh.
are you so worried about ads?
She likes to watch the ads. Can
Oh wait, they're on. Oh, I wasn't listening.
Yeah. It sounded.
I think somebody's trying to hit on your sister.
There are no bees. Okay. Ben, if you're gonna do the NPM, can you please let a bee into my house? Probably not. I know I'm saying no.
Wait, what?
Bye bye.
Wait, what the frick? What is that?
What is what?
I thought that room was.
No, I think you all have been on my stream longer than I have now.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm gonna fix that quickly.
So it's just me on the NPM, that's it.
Excuse me, Katie.
Nippin. I like the name. The Nippin.
Katie? No, Katie. No. They are.
Person is talking to my sister.
Yeah, they left already.
Okay, good.
Jimmy.
Plus, if you haven't realized, your sister left.
Oh, I think I scared them again.
Will you stop scaring our beautiful people?
Again. Hello.
Nobody's scared, they just
The
get
ads
bored.
were not interesting.
I scared them away again.
You did not scare anybody, they just got bored. Okay, what is
It's
this?
so cold in here. Can I close the door?
No.
Yes.
No.
I'm cold.
Frick, sweet berries.
Who's even watching anymore?
I'm not sure. No, don't, please. This chair chair costs over $100. I'll just say that.
And then you expect me to stop.
It's not like you would, Vincent.
Alright, what's this? Heck yeah.
Stop it.
down, huh? That's good. Katie,
I got a fly.
put it down. I did not hear a fly either.
I got one.
But did you?
I did.
Did you see it?
Yes, I did.
Really? Where is it? Katie, I know you didn't get a fly. You
Listen,
just-
Mom said come down and eat.
You scared me. I'm so scarred.
You know what? I might just end this
I'm
stream.
serious.
It's-
Come down and eat.
Okay. Give me a moment.
Stop!
To
Stop
live my
trying to
life.
break my door.
That's another thing.
Yeah, I think it's just random person stalking in the background by now. Here, let me move further into the screen.
So, is anyone still watching?
Yeah, random person, I'm gonna guess. He's just in the background, probably. Alright. You know what? Maybe we will just go play a game, because I am a gaming streamer. I don't do just chatting
I'll
stuff.
be back. Reluctantly.
Are you sure about that?
I'm 100% sure.
I don't think you're sure about that. Hello. Yeah, that stream's not too boring. I'll just go play something in a moment.
Is Jordan not here?
No. No, she's not. She's at a friend's house still, I believe.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Alright, you know what? Let's go play a game. Let's go find something to play. Roblox, maybe. Maybe something on Roblox, I'm not sure. Alright, what else? What else do I have? Oh, what's this? Huh?
I don't even have that.
Wait, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Are you still live or no?
Yeah, I'm still live. Oh, finally playing. Yeah, I'll be playing in a moment. I just got pinged for something on Discord. Alright, let's see. What should we play? Gotta decide. Gotta decide.
There's a carrot. What? I'm eating carrot. Oh. Can I see anything?
Yes, they can see things. We just can't see the things because I've... Oh, hello, Jeremy. Hello, friend. Help me. Stop eating right next to me, please. I can't handle that sound.
Catherine.
And I don't like it when people just do it because they're trying to be funny. Especially that. Anyways. Let's see. What should we play? Maybe, you know what? Let's just go do some NPM. Because there's nothing better to do.
Can I play Minecraft on your computer?
Maybe. Why do you look depressed? I need help. I need help right now. My family is hosting a Super Bowl party right now. All the kids have come up here at one point, and it's apparently, yeah, it's chaotic. Apparently, this could screw.
That was a random comment.
can break onto Vincent's thing because I know the password.
Exactly.
But do you?
I
Yeah.
do.
No, don't. No, you can't. You're not typing anything in there.
I know.
You can just say stuff. No. Alright, let's update all the titles and the game. There we go. No kid wants to watch the Super Bowl except the football-obsessed kids from elementary school. Yeah. No,
I
no.
don't like football, and I have no clue. The boys in my class are always like, I don't even know the team. I didn't know. I only know the Broncos
That's it, yeah.
and the Flatriots.
The Flatriots. Where's that?
The deflate treats.
And then
How
no
about the
one's streaming anymore.
49ers?
No one's streaming anymore.
No, one person is viewing. Oh gosh,
Oh.
Ben, can I play with you on your computer,
maybe,
please?
maybe,
Or maybe no, yes.
because I said so. This thing produces tons of sugar cane. How much has it produced? No. Random person? No. Okay, Oh, okay. Okay, that's a lot. Thank you. Yep, these are all my enslaved villagers.
Wait, what the heck? Wait, how did you do that?
Don't worry about it.
I don't care. I just like, how the heck did you do that?
Vincent, you need to eat your baked potato.
Did you
No,
like
I
put
don't.
them in a bed and then like
No, I do.
destroy the bed underneath them and then put glass over them?
No. You really haven't played Minecraft in a while, huh?
No, I have. I just played it yesterday.
She's a noob.
Clearly.
No, I just played for like a few minutes.
She doesn't even know how to enchant things.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, how do you enchant things?
Okay.
I don't either. Don't worry.
Wow, what noobs, both of you. Okay. Now what do we do?
I'm on the lane. How did you get diamond armor?
I
Did
don't
you
have.
craft that or did you cheat it?
I didn't cheat it.
So you did.
What?
Yeah, he's like,
I didn't. This is a 100% survival world. Yeah.
You're hungry.
If you don't know that song, you're truly not a pro.
Hey, I do. Don't worry.
Okay, what's it called?
I don't know what it's called. I've heard it though.
Have the two girls talked about something? Like your sister's friend should tell a joke like she did on the Halloween stream.
oh,
You speak Spanish? No, I don't, sadly.
I speak Spanish. Do you speak Pig Latin?
Oh my gosh.
wow.
No, do you? Because I've been talking. Oh, hi. Do you speak Pig Latin?
I'm pretty
Expe
sure.
Estramaque.
Oh my gosh.
He's playing.
Help me.
Help me,
Hello, friend. How are you?
Can
We're
I
just
play on your
doing.
computer now, please? Ben, please.
You can't join me because this is a private server.
I know. I just want to play on there.
Oh, hold on.
I like when they blow up in water because it does like
They
nothing.
can't explode in water, can
Yes, they can.
No, they can't do damage in water.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Dang it! Why'd you give me no what's it called? Why'd you give me no gunpowder? That's it. That's
It's
it.
probably at the bottom. of the
Loot.
sea.
No,
Under
they,
the sea.
it floats now, Katie.
I don't really care about creepers.
I'm sorry. Was that Mac?
Maybe.
Hi, Matt. Oh, I see Anna's reflection in the window of the car. Hi, Matt. Hi, Anna. Okay, goodbye.
Slight stalkers. Okay.
Oh, and you slammed my door. Don't be careful. That's a drone. That's a drone. No, that's a drone. Okay, Daz would was there? Oh, what?
Can I play Minecraft now?
If you continue to ask, I'm going to say no.
But Ben, please, seriously, I'm bored.
All right, maybe.
What do you want? What? Usually when people say maybe, they want something. Wait, go on top of that. It's kind of cool to watch the sugar like that. And how does it grow so fast?
It's called zero ticking.
What's it?
It's called zero ticking.
Zero ticking.
Yes.
I don't have Bedrock. Wait, does it only do it in Bedrock Edition?
No, you can do it in Java. Ouch. Alright, what do you have for trades?
Good morning.
Silk Touch in Fortune 3. Silk Touch for 15. Who's my Silk Touch villager? Because I'm like, no. Let's try to. Come on in.
Hi, Anna.
Hello, help, please, please. Yeah.
What the hell's going on?
I don't.
We're just playing Minecraft because there's nothing else better to do.
Ben so long because he's gonna be able to play Minecraft.
I can't, but that's a big. You should ask his dad though. His dad's.
Can I play Minecraft now? No, Jeremy. Alright, let's
Are you
see.
streaming?
Yeah.
Oh.
The entire world can currently see your face.
I've been.
What's up? You
so
should probably warn people.
apparently,
Callie could be here, and she doesn't want her face on the screen.
I scared half the people that watched it.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
You
The
speak
highest amount
Spanish?
At the same time.
Who speaks Spanish?
They're asked, they asked. And I,
Bonjour's French. What?
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Alright, you know what?
Nine.
Wow.
These
Uyu
are
Jay,
Spanish words I know.
XP, Attenley,
No,
Eshimarque.
stop hitting
You
the
don't have
chair,
to-
please.
Don't say question mark way. That's like just.
You're saying, do you speak Latin question mark?
I know, but you don't.
I
have
know,
to say
but I have to do my
question mark.
I don't know what that is, but I don't like that. Oh no, he did it on this side as well.
Uye,
Oh
Anaway,
my gosh.
Argue, Yorgway, NA,
No.
XP, Attenley, question mark, Eskimarque.
You did not say that right.
What did I say then?
I'm not even sure.
Well, you said Mark, which wouldn't it be
Arkman.
Cram? Oh, why do you need so much paper? What are you doing? What server is this? Is this
NPM.
okay? I haven't been here. I've been on NPM, but not
Oh my gosh, what the heck is that book?
Enchanted Book Fortune 3. Power.
That is really good.
Four?
That's
Yeah, that's power
really,
4.
really good.
I know Roman numerals.
Welcome to the internet. Do you speak Spanish? No, I speak
Sí, yo
binary. 0110111001101101101.
Yo hablo
I don't know what that
Espanol.
means.
Yo
I'm in
habla-
Spanish too.
Yo habla
Yeah,
España un
Just-
poquito. Yo no habla mucho
Perfect.
España porque
You know what?
yo
Screw these maps.
yo 10. Uye XP. Oh wait, that's.
Haha,
that's
yo hablo español.
I
I
think you could say no sé español.
I do know a
know
little
Espanol.
Spanish. Yes, come on in.
Yes.
Oh,
Callie,
be
Want your
careful,
face
be
to be
careful.
seen on the internet.
Why?
I'm
This is
currently
live
live
streaming.
streaming. I'm currently live streaming.
I know that was something last
I can
time.
turn on the web.
Yeah,
I can
face
turn.
to be
I can turn off the
visible.
webcam if you want.
That's fine.
Here.
just
Now
stay
they
right
can't
here
see
in the
you. Now they can't see you.
Where's your
Right? Yeah.
sister?
Not here.
What the
Non-existent.
hell's wrong with her?
She's non-existent.
Oh yeah, okay.
Anna, they could be 5. Stop cursing.
What
What
the?
did I said?
You said hell.
Oh.
What? Wait,
God
what?
damn it! I said hell.
You just said it again.
I know. I
That was
said
the exact point.
Okay, I'm
Damn.
sorry. Hold up.
I'm fully. No one here. is-
What?
How old are the children?
What?
I'm just kidding. Don't tell me your age. That's not safe. Do you
I'm
want your
sorry.
face on the internet?
Oh, I've been up here.
Where are my
already.
emeralds?
Okay, cool.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay, there's been a return.
Yeah.
Okay.
The camera's
I'm new,
off.
so
The
I'm like,
webcam's
ah.
off. Here,
I
just for
walked
proof.
in not knowing that the camera was
Webcam's
on,
off.
so I was like, oh wait. And I
Yeah,
knew Callie was
webcam's
coming,
off, so you're safe.
Oh, can they just see what you're doing?
Yeah, they can only see what's on the screen. Hold up, I'm
Can
going
they
to.
hear us?
Yeah, they can still hear us, but they can't see.
No,
us.
we're silenced.
I can't silence us. Watch this. What?
Wait,
Wait,
what?
what?
Which one?
Where? Guys.
Look, it said damn, I said hell.
Catherine.
I said, God damn it, I said hell. But it's okay. I understand the joke and I think it's very funny.
She's the weird one.
Someone said I was their favorite, so you know what? Screw all of you.
Oh
That
my
was last
gosh.
time. Not
that was a lot
recently.
of-
Not in this stream.
That was last time.
That was last
Which
night.
was yesterday.
So therefore you
Anna's
want
the
this?
funniest out of
That
us.
was last night after YouTube left. No, I don't want map.
Also, I like how
Oh my
the
gosh,
grocery
stop.
is no longer on the floor. 'Cause
Maybe.
so many people get like stepping on it.
Well, you know what? It shouldn't
No
be
me
able to
gusta
touch the
my
ground.
bad.
Especially when the
Maybe.
camera can't even see the ground.
If you're really bored,
Yep.
then go find something to do.
Maybe.
How many?
People sending
There are
weird
21 villagers here that I can trade with.
How
Yes, you
many
can.
cursors are there? It looks like there's 3.
Yeah, it will sound.
I'm very confused.
I don't know what you're talking about. Oh,
I am back.
oh, you're back, Vincent.
Oh.
Hello. We're on the NPM server
Electric
now.
Straight Kid is back.
Where the what?
Am okay.
Or I'm in.
Why is there so much happening?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Eating a potato. Eating a potato. We
sound
should
of
just
that.
narrate. Why is there so many sugar cane?
It is a zero-tick sugarcane farm.
Oh, and look. So
It's
you have
slowly-
an unrealistic amount of sugar cane for no reason.
No, it is very useful actually,
Well, yeah, paper. But
because then I can trade with all these villagers.
The sound
Do
of
they-
this amplified is like the funniest
She's the
thing
weird
ever
one.
to
Someone
me.
said I'm their favorite. Screw you all. Yeah, so this is
I like
Jeremy.
that they keep mocking what I say.
Yeah,
What are those?
Wait, what?
Jeremy likes to just mock everybody, if you couldn't tell.
Thanks, Jeremy as Nitro. It's fine.
You're
My
very-
family insults me the same way.
Yeah, that's what his name is.
I like everyone.
Hello, I am villager number 52.
Thank you, villager number
Imagine
4.
if that was actually like how the sun sounds, just making villager noises.
This is it's
Having a
honestly
conversation like this.
Huh.
Her?
Huh.
Imagine listening to that one person who tells really
All right, I
in-depth
got a
stories
stack
about
in
life.
6. I got a stack and a quarter of emeralds.
Normally, and then there's Aiden that's like.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Go back over all of that.
Well, I mean, you
Who
do
is
it normally,
that?
and then he's just like.
Yeah. I am now papyrus.
A constant.
Hold up. Oh.
Who
Oh,
else
no.
is on?
Get over here, boy!
Stop,
Get over
stop,
here, boy!
Stop! Oh, it's you!
It's Vincent.
It's me. This is spectacular. Oh no.
This is spectacular.
Harassing people is a sin.
Exactly. This is what I had to
Also,
deal with.
I now
Katie
look
at
like him
last night.
because of a glitch in the game.
Fun.
Really?
Ja ja ja!
But you look like Ben.
Yeah.
I look like you.
Certainly is a cool area. I
I
should
look
try and find you, but I'm lost in the mountains somewhere.
You're 1,000 blocks that way.
I'm glad to know that, but that is not helpful in relation to me.
I know.
I now know how to
Me.
get back from where you are,
Just
but I don't know how to get
me.
from where I am
What?
there.
What?
Why are your eyes green? Do you have green eyes?
No, I don't.
Oh. I was like,
I will hit
relatively
you.
certain you had brown eyes,
I'll
but
hit
here we
you.
are, confused.
Jeez.
Ah! Oh! You better
That's-
give me back my stuff. You better give me back my
I'm
stuff.
giving them back. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, he would have killed
Maybe
me.
I-
you just shouldn't kill each other. I don't know.
He hit me with an iron sword. I hit him with a fist.
Take it as you will, but like maybe murdering each other isn't the best option.
You know,
Uh,
I'm just gonna.
Read my comment. I can't see your comment, Jeremy.
Bueno. Jeremy just likes to mock everyone. BTW, the one that said screw you, is
No, after
all
that.
is my favorite.
No, after that.
And then it says ja ja ja.
Yeah, we can.
Jeremy
We
just
Bueno,
can
de
everyone. By the
Bren
way,
Conan.
the one
I
that
read
said
those out a
screw
while ago,
He's
Katie.
my favorite.
Ja, ja.
Thank you.
Ja 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 is just ha ha ha. in
I'm the
Spanish.
one who said screw you all. My name is Anna.
Oh, hey, look, an iron golem just died.
Bueno,
That's what I always do.
Ding, ding,
Chimera.
ding, 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 dong. Wait, do you do this?
Okay, I knew
just
some of those words. Comer is to eat.
Do you do that just in Canada?
Bueno,
Say-
te brillan.
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
Wait, no sé. I just don't need.
A-A-N-A.
What the heck?
Ow, my ears!
My ears.
That's not conjugated.
That's the
Ben,
first lesson in
Ben,
Spanish class.
Ben.
Is
Me
the
says
alphabet.
Miss Piggy, did Kermit
break up with you?
But I'm also impressed with myself that I don't have to do the alphabet to figure out what letters are.
Wait.
I reached that level of
All right,
Spanish,
help
which isn't
me.
impressive.
That's still where I'm at in English.
What?
What do you mean?
I don't have to
Yeah.
like A, B, C, D, to get to like P.
Hold up, hold up. I know what to do. Hold up.
A, L,
What
A,
are you
A,
doing
N, A.
to
That's
it?
what it spelled.
They look like.
And it looked like Pauline. Oh, it does look like. What is that? What happened here?
It's the wheels to the chair.
Oh,
I forgot I did
then, like,
no,
that.
just a deer walks through.
Sure, give me a moment.
only in that one spot.
Yeah, it
Alright.
it landed here.
Stepped out of the closet and then went back into the
Hopscotched
closet.
into the house.
Maybe killing everyone is a bad idea.
Except
I'm
for
the
there, where
one
it
that
took
said
twice.
screw you all, my name is Anna. Okay?
Why do they keep repeating my things?
I don't know. Anyways, let me head to my YouTube channel.
Wait, can you?
Why?
You know,
I know, because why not?
Why?
Apparently,
Why?
apparently
Why?
he made a comment. He made a comment
Wait,
we're
how many
supposed to look at?
subscribers do
Okay.
you have?
60.
I got
Help
60.
I Minecraft? Or no, is that
Wait,
Help,
Help.
the Bar Minecraft?
How many
Help
views does it
Minecraft.
have?
One watching.
Hello?
Oh yeah, this is last night's stream, Anna.
Look at my gorgeous face behind you. I'm just leaning exactly
We
as
are
I am
chaos.
on your chair.
Wait, Vincent. Or Ben.
Let me
Oh,
explain
you
to
said
you.
you would-
are
Hey,
Stop.
get in
You're
there.
chaos.
Get into
No,
the water.
I know
what
it's
it
titled.
does. Go to
But
the
do you?
Yeah, I do. You
This
said
is
in
part
our
2
notes.
of that.
Yeah, except with more people.
It's part 2
Yeah.
of that.
And without
And plus, I'm
Sally.
turning with the villagers.
Fuck.
So,
Many
constantly
other
turning.
people.
Hey, give me
Yeah.
a moment.
Thalia's not here yet, but there is everyone else.
Sally even gonna be here?
Hey, she should be.
Yeah, halfway through the game.
Probably,
Halftime is Shakira.
I like this thing. Look at how much
That's
sugar cane
satisfying.
it's.
Oh
Look.
my god. That is,
One watching. Actually, no, two watching.
Hey, get in.
Hey, get
Also,
in
could you
there.
please not block the chat? Thank you.
Ben has to be able to
Don't
see
have
it.
to block
Yeah,
the
I have to
chat.
read.
Then while you're watching that, can
Look how beautiful it is. Look at all the sugar cane.
That
Yeah.
is-
I
What
know.
if you fell into that? What would happen?
I would continuously get squished.
Okay.
Continues to get squishy.
And this is how much it's produced.
squish, squish, squish.
Oh yeah, and don't forget this.
That's chaotic.
What is?
The whole system. It's very impressive that you can do all this redstone things. I can't. I'm not.
I'm
great
very
at
impressed because I made a.
This thing apparently
I
can
made a
produce. Oh no!
door
I
to
broke
an
it!
airport.
I broke it! Oh no!
God.
Wait! Oh, somebody. Who did this?
Wow, Ben.
Who did
What?
this?
It's also very
it. Not me, because I'm lost on a mountain
One
somewhere
watching.
making a
Actually-
hotel for my demons.
Yes.
What?
Anna, come.
I'm so confused.
Come
A
join
hotel
us.
For your demons.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Wow. What is happening? You
That-
were one
I
sad,
play
strange
too,
person.
and when I play, wait, they wrote
I
in
don't.
Spanish.
Yeah, I don't speak Spanish.
It means he's a therapist because
I can.
Everybody, stop trying to read it at once. I can only hear so many voices.
Has anybody else seen?
Besides the
So,
ones in my head.
Necessitando, so I'm assuming they're just us.
Have any of you seen Ben's keyboard?
Because
It's
Necessitando is
so
they need,
mesmerizing to me.
they need to.
Yes.
I don't know what that is
Wait,
because
So every time it looks like he
can-
presses
I
a
can
button,
tell
he
most
goes
of the Spanish ones. Have any of you seen
Wait, then
the
stop
Spanish
clicking now.
keyboard?
speaker.
Like,
so
I
satisfying.
have to.
No,
back-
nobody on the stream has ever seen my
jumps
keyboard.
off.
you need to show it to them. It's
Okay.
absolutely amazing.
What?
Ben's keyboard.
It's just a normal RGB keyboard. Everybody has one.
No.
I love that it glows though. It's actually fantastic.
Why are we talking about Ben's keyboard?
Because it's fantastic. It glows.
like,
Oh yeah, so this is a captive.
Obviously.
Guys, read the sign. Read
is
the
it
sign.
So this is a captive bully.
Stupid
I
bully.
know.
Peter's amazing dubstep captive bully. That's amazing.
That's funny.
So many chickens.
That's how you read. Will you believe me?
So many chickens.
Will you
You
believe
get out. You don't.
Get egged.
chickens?
Get egged.
Why is some of the letters?
I actually took 2.5 damage.
What
Yeah.
just happened? Just an egg one? The amount of redstone that I don't understand in this is actually pretty amazing.
Oh, come on in.
Oh.
Who this?
Oh, hey!
Let's go.
You look exhausted.
He was just at gymnastics.
This is my best friend. Don't take her from me. I
Good
will
for
kill
you.
They can't see
Did you
you.
win any medals?
Oh, I didn't.
Okay.
It wasn't
I
my.
need to make it so my skin
Okay.
doesn't. I need to make it. I need to make it so my skin doesn't.
Stop screaming!
I need to make it.
We have to say hello to our good old pal Jordan.
They can't
Jordan,
see
how do
her.
you feel?
I'm gonna go to sleep in about a second.
Oh, okay.
It's past my bedtime.
Okay.
All right, epic.
It's 5:30.
Good day, night.
Nearly. It's not even 5:30
Good
yet.
day, night.
What? Oh, set it up, yeah. Hold on.
I'm gonna close the door.
Hey, you gotta remember it's my keyboard. It's my computer.
I
It
need to
was
fix my skin. I
okay
need to.
for like 5 minutes.
Not even.
I need to fix my skin, so I'll be right back.
Same.
I like how it tells you though that it's your skins, right? But it's not.
What?
Okay,
Hold
Who's
up.
playing? Which one of your friends?
Why
so
am
many
I?
microphones.
Hold
It's
on, hold on.
I'm the one playing.
Oh, they were saying hello to Jordan. Do you know English and just can't write in English? Is that?
Jeremy has nice.
Because you
Uh-oh.
seem to know some of it.
His username is English, so I
Oh,
would
Jeremy
assume-
has Nitro. Wait, then who's been? Oh,
Wait, what?
Organ Grinder 666 is the one who speaks Spanish.
Yeah, hold on,
Jeremy
hold
has
on.
Nitro is just being weird, but
Shout out to Organ Grinder.
guys, I think.
He's like,
I'm
This is
sorry,
spectacular.
what?
Bye, guys. Oh, does know some English. I'm so lost in
Okay,
this
there we go.
conversation.
Bye,
Somebody
guys. It's great. Okay, we'll check
didn't
you
know
out.
English and just
Excuse me.
wanted to mess with us. That's cool.
I'm just gonna.
What's happening?
Nobody's allowed in my chair right
I'm
now.
just gonna sit down because I have no point of.
I'm nobody.
Oh yeah, Anna, I've got to show you this.
I've seen it. You showed me.
But did I show you the VR view?
No.
Exactly.
So this has now become my show.
They can't see you. They can only hear you.
I know, but they can still hear me.
Also, Jeremy, you can join us. We're in Group Talk 049 on my Discord. Come talk with us, friend.
Do a speak.
Anna, on the console to
Anna?
your left, just press chatting. Don't press the one with webcam. Just press the one
Chatting.
just chatting.
I got it.
Okay, and now it's glowing slightly brighter than the rest.
Yeah, that's because it has been selected.
Cool. I just want to make sure that was supposed to happen.
Yeah. All right.
I love the weird squatting human being next to the penguin.
in Marketplace.
Yeah.
Wait, there are penguins in Minecraft?
No,
No.
it's just a seed.
Okay, I'm just making sure because I love
You guys are.
I'm breaking in.
Hold up,
Is Jordan
Anna.
actually going to sleep?
Hold up.
She's getting food now.
Let me make sure again.
She's like, I need a nap, but first
Yep,
let
you
me
selected
eat.
the right one.
Gotta eat.
That's good.
Dude, gotta eat
What?
first. Like,
I was just making sure you selected the right one.
Is Anna playing
Well, I didn't touch it.
I know.
I'm not playing. I'm just sitting in the chair because Ben said nobody can sit in the chair,
Yeah,
and so
well.
I said I'm nobody.
You know what? You're
So-
What are we doing now then?
I don't know.
I'm the only one on the NPM. so
there
far.
we
Ben,
go.
what are we doing?
We're just chatting with people.
Yeah.
The people.
So-
Ask your questions. I shall answer.
Is the camera
talk
on
show.
or is it just like
No, it
whatever
just
you
kinda
see in that
stares you down
square is
anyway.
what's
it's a
the exact
radio
face.
talk show? Okay. So
Yeah.
it's just like a screen that.
I know
Okay,
all answers
great.
to any question you could possibly ask me.
Wow, that
I
is actually
highly.
that is very
Shut
scary.
it.
That is very scary. And
I
will
don't
set
think
my
that's
alert
true,
from
but
now.
I know all.
Alright, there you go.
Wait, Ben, is
No
this
one's
the same
asking
room that you're
questions.
on?
This is
No.
disappointing.
You can't join me.
Look at all the people who followed 20 hours ago. Mario64 GD3 followed your channel.
There's
20
a
hours
Mario
ago,
Frick you.
Rico Mosley
Frick you,
followed your
I'm
channel.
Sonic.
20 hours ago. Naruto is OP. Oh, we remember Naruto. We like them.
Why do some people just like keep quoting people and then doing it in a really weird like capital and then lowercase?
Yeah,
font?
that's
Why?
really cool,
That's
though.
Jeremy, and I think all of it is me. Hey, Anna, I'll try not to mock you anymore. You can mock me all you
yeah.
want.
Hey,
Watch
keep
it.
Jordan's
that
back.
outta here.
Jordan is here.
Can
Okay.
I have a carrot?
So I vote Anna. I've shown Joe
Baby
this.
carrot.
She loves
Thank
it.
you.
We also
I'm just gonna steal
She
it.
tried
I
to do
didn't
the
realize I
renegade
went this
dance
way
in
'cause
front of
it's
it.
pretty.
Anyway, so
ASMR.
I made it in the carrot.
Anna, put this on
Oh.
to enter the VR experience of a drone.
Oh, this is too small for my head, but it's cool. I fixed it.
Here I can.
Never mind. I think it's good.
Okay, it's good. Watch out, Katie.
I don't know how to use it.
I love
Oh
the
my
scratch
god, are you
screen.
actually? Are you
Screen.
gonna sit outside?
Yeah, I've
Can
done.
I try this next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just know I'll change the battery between
Oh,
the flights
Jesus, this
because
is
this battery
dizzying.
doesn't last long.
Okay, great.
You should feel this.
Anna, what are you seeing right now?
The ground of the deck. Oh, never mind. We're
Describe
going
it.
up.
Describe.
A gorgeous view of a car.
What color is
The
the car?
trees. It's like a black blue kind of color.
Gotta get these details.
All right,
Oh,
hold up.
and now I see some toes in the corner.
Let me look at your toes,
Yeah,
kid.
sorry, I just had to quickly reset the gyro so it works better.
Oh no, it's cool. Oh, it's actually kind of gray. It's a gray blue, that car. And then there's another car in the distance which is kind of black.
Guys, come see how far up this thing is. Oh no.
Oh,
Hey,
Jesus.
Come back.
Be lucky I don't have a
No,
fear of
come
heights.
No.
Oh, look, it's the
No.
horizon. Oh,
Be
oh,
free!
oh, oh no. Oh, it's kind of falling. I don't know what's happened because it's lagged and stopped.
Be free! Be
It
free!
flew off. It flew off.
Oh my gosh!
The drummies.
She just escaped.
What happened?
I told you I'd be free!
It like went to the other side of the road.
So it got a little
Can I,
too far.
wait, can I see where it went? Can I see what
You
it looks
can't
like?
see where it
My
went
parents
yet
are
because
gonna
it's just
kill my
lagged
brother.
in one position. Looking at the house in the distance,
Really
that's
see
where
Ben
it's
running.
Let me
lagging.
see the house.
Yeah, you want to see the house? It's actually very blurry, but certainly interesting.
Oh yeah. That shows where we last had connection. This shows the last moments when we had connection.
Looking at the house longfully, just like someone talk to the camera. I don't know if you can hear us.
Hi!
Oh my god.
I'm gonna sit here.
Yeah, it's like longfully looking at the house. Like,
These were my last words, except for what I saw last.
That's so funny.
No one's watching anymore.
Yeah, I know.
go drone!
The
drone landed!
It landed perfectly. Wow.
There's really white people who clap when a plane
It's not a plane, it's a drone. That's different. That is a universal clapping. Also, screw you. You're white as hell. Anna, you hypocrite.
You
No, I'm a little bit of Lebanese in me, so shut it. No, I'm kidding.
I'm as white as it can get. I'm Romanian, German, and Polish.
I'm.
English. I just don't understand y'all.
You don't understand me?
Jordan! This is so funny. I'm just like, it's the last moment.
Some of my whitest friends have the most diversities.
Wait, what?
What do you mean?
Oh yeah, cause like
She's
when it's
Mid-Eastern.
what?
She's Mid-Eastern.
I'm Middle
She's
Eastern.
like,
Lebanon is in the Middle East.
Like, I don't know where. She never told me.
Does anyone want to go on the trampoline?
Oh, it's changed.
Too late.
Anna, it changed.
It changed. Let me see.
changing. No, it's just like on the road where Ben is walking.
Wait.
Oh Jesus! Wait, it's not done.
No,
We can see the video later. It
Wow.
replays.
It can
so
teleport.
funny.
The mouse can teleport.
Doing.
Messing with a
Teleportation.
Oh,
It can
it's very-
teleport.
It's
The
very
mouse
blurry.
can teleport.
Wait,
laggy.
did this
It's frozen.
organ grinder
a blur
plug their Instagram?
of what seems to be.
Oh dang
The
it!
ground.
It's the ground, but there are very pale spots on the ground. Wait, is it no? There are very pale spots on
I
the
like that
ground.
he didn't turn it off though. Yeah, he's just left it on for us to see his journey back.
Eventually.
That's very kind of him, actually.
Yeah, that's good. What's your problem?
What is your problem?
Good question. Is anyone even still here? I think everyone left because
Yeah.
we just kind of stopped
We
doing
have
the
no
things.
friends.
Oh, it's working now. Yes.
I want to put the video thing back on so people can be interested.
Don't fight and do that.
They should not see.
Just play one of Ben's old videos.
I'm assuming it's going to be either monitor, webcam. Oh yeah, it's gonna be webcam. Wait, there's too many webcams.
working.
Or
Will you stop messing with Ben's?
I'm looking at the ground. This is the funniest thing ever. It's just like Ben. I know, right? It's weird though. VR is a weird thing that he wears it. Yeah, it all saves to his thing, so we can technically go back and rewatch this stuff.
We can watch it when we grow up and remember.
Back.
the days.
I remember just watching for a good like
into the microphone.
where's the microphone?
Right there. I think.
This?
I think so.
Is this the microphone? Is this the microphone? Hello?
I'm Melon.
Is this the microphone?
Bye.
Okay,
Whoever
this
you were.
this is the mic. This is the microphone.
What happened?
I found the microphone.
Yes, that's the microphone.
ASMR. Go get some carrots.
Did you not see me eating a
No,
carrot?
go get more.
more carrots.
Now. Go get
I
more
always-
carrots.
I'm being trampled by people.
Woman,
I'm coming with you.
I recorded the entire thing.
We only saw like records the whole experience of flying up. It was the most interesting moment.
Now this is great.
Where did it go?
Wait a second. What? I'm confused now. Don't worry.
My ticket from the Doomy.
Doomy?
Hey Joe, you do know everybody can hear what you're saying, right?
Cool.
Hola.
Oh my gosh, this is great.
it's not good Spanish. I learned bad Spanish.
I'm gonna do ASMR.
That's the extent of my knowledge.
Sorry if you have headphones on. Sorry, headphone
Oh, no.
users.
Stop sniffing into the camera, into the microphone.
I'm doing ASMR.
No, don't.
Okay,
You know what?
that was last time. That was the last time.
Oh my gosh. It didn't catch anything else. But
Recorded its last.
Ha 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 ha.
there, good.
I'm
still doing ASMR.
What? No.
Yes. We're heading back to Minecraft.
The world of Minecraft.
Wait, how are you dying? You're in creative. Oh, I didn't see
Hey,
it.
what happened to why aren't you playing on my laptop? I got it for you.
I don't know how to use the laptop.
W, A, and D for movement. E for inventory. Left click to destroy. Right click to place. What?
Ben, would
What?
you like to check out my house?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about, Ben.
What do you mean? I
And
don't
it's
know.
also in creative, and everything is on fire.
Oh yeah, you joined into that world. Okay.
You're bouncing, so I bounced with it.
Ben, have you even seen my house?
Yes. I have been there multiple times.
Really? I kind of got it.
We're back.
I doubt that you did.
Just bouncing when he bounced.
So yeah, it recorded the event, and it recorded up until it saw the tree, until it was
saw
looking
the
at
house?
the tree. Yeah,
Yeah.
And then yeah.
It sees the house from a distance.
Okay.
Wrongfully.
We have carrots now.
Ouch.
ASMR time. The ASMR. Honestly, I feel more forced to do it than anything. Moo!
Why am I not alive?
You
Have
know
you
exactly why.
Have you shouted out Oregon Grinders Instagram yet? Should do that.
Have you?
Eat these
No.
nuts fair.
Oh, who did you do that?
Okay,
No.
it's at.
I'm going to go.
Oh,
to
well,
Here's the thing, I have not
Did I
been
do
in
what?
there
So-
since the sign and
But-
about a month ago.
Did I do what?
It's
No.
at JUARNIZO.
Don't worry about it. It's a Minecraft.
Well, it's
thing.
spelled in Spanish, so I'm assuming if I just said it, most people would not know how to spell it.
What are you asking about?
I'm shouting out the guy's thing because they wanted
That
it.
one?
Yeah, they
I
wanted their Instagram shouted out. So you know what? You can have it.
They
I already
didn't have to
said bye
shout
to
it out.
them.
I'm check. They just said what it is. I'm going to check it out now. Search. Pretty sure you'd say that Juan.
It is.
Maybe
it's
killing
pronounced
everyone is a
Juan.
bad idea. I'm the one that said screw you all. My
Yeah,
name is
you know.
Aaron.
We read that already. That was like half an hour ago.
I'm just gonna take some after.
Callie, Jocelyn told me you convinced her to stay in
Huh.
orchestra.
Oh, I found it.
It's, I think it's
The next
pronounced
day she said that she wasn't going to do
Juan's-
Orisa, though, so.
Guarnizo.
Mr. Faulkner.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not very good at that. That last name is what's getting me.
He's like,
Or that is it a thing? I don't know.
Oh, they're a
Alonzo.
streamer and a YouTuber.
It down now, right before you get to
Oh, cool.
Are you doing it?
That explains why they found me.
No.
They were just probably.
I remember you saying that you might. But
I was gonna.
You know what? Hey, why don't we go check out their Twitch?
Oh, right, you guys have course.
yeah, we already did that.
Yeah, we just did.
What are you eating?
Yeah, like we just
What class
did
is
that.
Do you want me to show you?
All right, last stream looks like it was 4 days ago,
What courses are you taking?
Let's see. So for my like work class,
and they're hosting somebody.
I'm
Okay.
And I'll tell you mine when I get back.
science.
Anyways,
I'm taking honors earth, and it's hard. It's hard.
No, I've heard some.
I am taking integrated.
No, Anna told me about like that time. I feel like.
I honestly really doubt that
a
you
lot of
actually
people,
have been
like
to
some
my
people
house.
can be really successful in it.
I have.
I'm really.
Are you
good at
talking about the
science.
one inside the ravine?
I'm really
Yes.
good at science.
Yes, I have.
Like I feel like people who are really good
Okay,
at
then
science
come.
do it because
All right.
they are good at science.
Let me grab my horse here. Where's the lead? There it
And
is.
I did it because people
I
told me
am
to
back.
do easy honors.
Oh,
Nobody wishes you were back. Ooh, I know, right?
You're mean.
All honors in AP,
Your brother's bullying me.
and I told them not to do this stupid
It's a very
idea.
bad idea. Don't
And
do
then
that.
they were like Miss Fairy was talking about honors language arts, and she was like, so if you're an honors language arts, you're going to be doing about 5 to 7 page essays twice a week.
Not,
And
it's
Joey
February.
actually turns around and gives me
Don't
this
give
look.
Christmas
She's like,
songs when it's February.
because she's doing
No.
all honors in AP.
No.
That's not a Christmas song.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't even singing that. You clearly have Christmas on your mind.
No, it sounds like a Christmas song.
That's what I was just singing.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It was.
I'm gonna do ASMR with
See, what did I tell you?
Nice. Okay. How dare you?
No, stop. Seriously.
And then you're just gonna ride up into the distance. Okay, but I did make some updates. If you want to see the updates I just made, come
I
on.
don't know if you're right or not. I don't pay much attention. I'm more focused on eating my carrots. And now my banana bread.
Emma, what classes are you taking?
I don't know. I've really been looked at it yet.
You know, I've honestly got a feeling
And the whole
you have
presentation was like,
looked
here's your courses
inside.
that
They
exist.
did
But
not
they
tell
didn't
us.
I have checked every single one of your chests and
Oh, yeah,
barrels.
no, they didn't tell us.
That's why my honey bottles are
They
missing.
explained it
No, I didn't take them. I
Uh,
looked through them. I don't take.
There were things on them.
Literally
But you
all
know,
they
those
said is,
potatoes do look
"These are your
nice.
cards, turn them in here or else we choose
did you
for
put anything in my ender chest?
Our,
No.
Yeah.
Dude, ender chests. Oh my gosh. Do you know how ender chests
I
even
know
work?
how ender chests work, but I thought you put them your stuff in there so people wouldn't be able to see it.
No.
Miss I think Miss
So-
Severs.
Yeah, I'm hiding a lot from you.
Cool. I'm not taking any of that.
Like,
And I was like,
I don't break my own rules.
it depends on
It
the
sounds
day.
like
Because,
a
like,
bad
we
day.
just recently had a project on, like, Yellowstone.
Oh, there's
We
my
had to write,
horse.
like, a few paragraphs for that, which didn't
By the way, I have fireworks if you want any.
But it was like,
Nah, those have balls and stuff on them. I can't use
oh,
those.
right.
Not
What did you guys
prepared.
do?
Because I have to fly.
We did better than I was
No.
expecting, but we didn't get an A. We got like a B. High B, 88, I think.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
120.
No. Nobody gets any more.
No, our group was kind of bad. Because my group was like, I had only 3 kids in my group, including myself. Harry wanted everything done his way. Blake was having a panic attack about it the whole time. So I was having to be like, get this crap done! And they were.
My bizarre group was the worst.
Wait. Are you talking about your bazaar or your community service?
No, neither. I'm talking about a current program.
Oh.
I'm talking about like how
Wait,
I had
who's
the
in your
worst.
bizarre group?
Not in my bizarre group.
Hola.
Because I'm not talking about community service.
I'm not on community service
Okay.
either. I'm saying bizarre.
Who was in my bizarre group?
Which is a back
Okay, no. Here's really bad. It was Cody, Brody, Killian, and Kylie. And I
Oh, yeah, I
hate
found a
things
mushroom island.
with a burning.
Mushroom Island?
Yeah,
Let's not
yeah.
talk about the fact that it's Cody, Brody,
Uh-huh.
Killian, and Kylie, and all the names sound alike except for like separation
And
of
then-
Odie and then
And then
the kill.
Jordan.
Odie and kill.
You're welcome.
That's the 2 pairs.
Killer.
Kill Odie. Kill Cody.
Kylie.
That's
I
aggressive.
don't like Kylie either, but she's always she acts like
Better than everyone.
yeah, and she's always like, oh hey. And
I
I'm
mean, you
like,
at least have to be better than everyone.
How come everyone's sitting in a circle enjoying life?
Enjoying
How are you guys enjoying yourselves? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Who keeps
Join the
slamming my
circle.
door?
We're summoning Satan.
no,
Are you doing
it's
honor
the
fire
other
this year?
one.
I want to.
One of them's
Anna, it's Ukrainian death sledding.
Don't ask why.
Get it right.
Let's see. Cody, okay. You
Alright, I
guys
need
expressed
wood,
Cody and me
wood.
were the ones who got the most work done.
Wood.
Like Cody got work done.
I
Like,
can understand that Cody
think
can
that.
pay
And-
attention.
If it's Cody who's getting work done.
From the people who got the most work done, discluding myself, are probably like Cody, Brody, and then Killian and Kylie were like tied.
It was like
They did
neither of
nothing.
them did anything.
Every
No,
time I go
because
near
they
you, I must
always
hit.
were talking, and one time I like had a full blown panic attack after school because the bell rang, and we were all going to Killian's house, so we didn't have to ride a bus or anything. We just walked to her house, and they like all left, and we hadn't gotten our game approved yet, and so I had to finish everything before I could get it approved. And then they all just like left when the bell rang, and I'm still like sitting here doing all this work that I don't know how to do. And then out of nowhere, I just like start having a panic attack. And
Oh,
then
look
That
how
doesn't
many
sound out of nowhere at all. That sounds like
That sounds
into where
absolutely.
I remember that
Okay.
we were late,
That
so
seems
we
justified.
had to film
Yeah,
the green.
it's a very valid reason to have
And
a
half the
panic
time they
attack.
were just like
You're-
messing around.
Your group left. You're working alone. You don't know where they are. Like, this sounds like a great reason to have a panic attack.
But I thought
They
you
need to finish
Ben, I
it.
thought you needed to get rid of that.
Oh
Rid of
my
what?
God.
She wouldn't
I
think.
did
She
not.
What
It was
thing?
like first try.
You said someone put something there, and
No, it doesn't matter.
Oh. She was like, nope, that's not. No.
What country were you guys?
Fiji.
We almost did Fiji. We did New Zealand.
We got like approved really quickly, but the kid who said he was gonna paint the thing didn't ever paint it, so we just did a void award for
Who's
it.
in your group?
Our
What?
game was
Who
pretty
was
stupid.
in your group?
My group was
Our
great.
game was so
Mason.
hard.
Mason was the
My
only
game
kid
was
who did
just
anything.
stupid. We
Rob
took
and
what is it called? A pole and attached like to it a homie.
Iron
to
Golem,
it.
yeah, I
This
remember
guy
that.
just stuck it
Good.
in styrofoam, and I'm like, hey Killian, can you spray paint it? And she's like, yeah. And she comes to school with nothing done.
I
I was
remember
like
that you
so
just, like,
pissed at her.
strung some
I remember my
pom-poms
group was
on it.
me.
This just shows there was only one generation that wasn't actually
Macy
lazy.
Milo.
In between all the lazy gens.
And then
Wait, who?
It was me, Eloise Bradford, Macy Milo.
Wait, is her sister Elise Cornello? She's such a jerk.
Yes.
That was great, thanks.
Then I had,
She's a jerk.
then I had Summer and
Are you still streaming?
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
I like how I just like gossip.
Yeah, we're gossiping in
Ben's
this corner.
letting you all know.
Ben's just like, yep.
This
Telling
kid's a
the world
jerk.
how
Like,
much
that's-
we hate each person.
Yeah, this literally could be found by
But no,
some
I
kid
like my
in theory.
community service group because it's Priscilla, Mia, and Savannah.
Oh, that's just
And And we're all like pretty hardworking, and I guess Mia gets off track a lot, and Priscilla doesn't.
Yeah.
Ours is really good because like all the people I know are gonna work in it, but we have a lot of people.
I've noticed I have problems
Okay.
with some, like, because Mia, she gets off track a lot, and
Yellow
Priscilla
band.
just doesn't. It's not okay. She knows how to do stuff, but she claims she doesn't. So Mia, Savannah, and I end up doing all the work, and then when Mia getting off track, Savannah and I end up
Come
doing all
on.
the
Who
work. And then
wants
sometimes
this
Priscilla's
lectern?
not even up to Mia's service. She's only been
Where are
doing
you
two
guys
this
going
entire year.
Don't say anything on stream because nobody knows our location.
I went to a hospital.
There you go.
I went to a
Mary
hospital
Cat
like
Shelter.
4 days ago. So what?
And it was actually great. Go to an animal shelter.
That's
At least
that's
you
a
can
That's
bunch
what
of
we
our
did want to do
places.
because Haley,
What happens if someone actually came to your house and found out where you were?
so she was like,
I'm not sure.
at her house at the time.
What would
Yeah.
you do?
We had a bunch of,
I like-
we have a
I
bunch
like
of
Depends on what they're there for.
that we could go to, because so when we took that test and see where you guys all want to go, Priscilla wasn't
All right.
there, and then Mia wasn't there. And so Priscilla, Savannah, and I all took it, and we all had the most in common with kids. But then Mia came, and we didn't know what to do because she's like, oh, I don't want to do kids.
Yeah, two of us were like,
So can I join in on this?
Elderly people are the best.
and
They're
two
great.
of
I'm
us
like,
were
why
like,
would you want to like help them? I mean, that's
why would you want to help them?
No one in my group
Hey, can I
wants
join in on this conversation?
Sure.
community service.
What did
Community service? What?
Oh, and then
Our group
here's
is
my favorite part.
our
So
group is okay.
when my
Yeah, I'm joining in. I
Oh,
wanna.
you're just
and you
popping
guys,
in.
when you
Yeah,
guys
I'm
were doing
popping
community
in.
service and we were doing Bazaar, I was in Miss Rufine's class, and Bree and her group, they all worked in the like little room right by her class, and when
What's going on downstairs?
they wouldn't get
The Super
any-
Bowl.
Super Bowl ad.
yeah,
Shakira? Is that you?
when I get really
Shakira,
mad at my group because they were just messing around and not doing anything.
Are
I'd
the
just
ones
go
with
to
the moss on
other
their heads
room,
nitwits?
And I would be like ranting to Bree
No.
and talking with Bree.
No, they just don't have a job.
I miss
Those
our
are
I
our
thought.
Pretty sure
Yay.
Bree hates me.
Oh,
I don't think anyone.
which one over here
Maybe
did it?
Justin or something.
This
I'm
one.
not gonna say a person's name, but maybe
This
Justin
dude right
did
here.
to me, but
Also,
honestly,
get off the
What
glass.
happened to your theory of
You're
your
pushing them
mother's
all
crush
back.
on you?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mom was very much like he likes it. Like
We
he better
probably
not.
shouldn't do
He
this.
better
You
on-
think that's
We
going?
probably shouldn't do this on stream.
What?
There's a kid.
We're
who
doing it
my mother
anyway.
thinks likes me because he's a douche to me.
My
So
parents have the theory that I like Quinn.
Quinn can burn in the depths of hell. Though.
Hey.
You guys are lucky because right now
Hey.
he's at Stevens.
You know what?
Quinn is on the live stream, like,
He knows how much we hate.
Yeah,
He
Quinn-
knows why do you think
Quinn
he's-
comes
I
up
will
to
be
me.
fair.
I didn't take
Like
any
a
of your
couple
stuff.
days ago, we were walking home like from the bus, and a girl dropped her phone in the road, and he just ran up and got it for her. Which I
No.
thought was like that's
When he's
good
not
of you.
around his friends, he's a
He's
nice
actually,
guy.
yeah. Quinn's the kind of person where
He's
normally a good
influenced.
person, but he
I
gets
wonder if
He's
so
influenced.
easily
Gemini.
confronted by
If he's
people.
a
so
Gemini
annoying.
and he's two-faced, it would make sense.
I don't think he's a Gemini. He better not be a
Yeah,
Gemini.
I'm
As a Gemini, I'm offended.
He's an Aries.
baby.
I'm pretty sure he's an Aries.
How do you know? Do you know his birthday?
It's March something because my
Oh,
dad,
hello.
Carson, and
We're
Quinn.
gossiping.
So my dad, Carson, and Quinn, all their birthdays are in 3 days in a row.
Oh, okay.
So that I only know it's March something.
Oh, that explains
I'm
why
talking about
Carson
my
and
dad's
Quinn
birthday.
get along so well if they're the same.
Astrological.
Yeah, because I just kidding.
Okay.
Zodiac.
So something I want to
I'm
do
a
is
Gemini.
become an
All I can
oncologist.
think of is-
Ethan's
And
shown
it's
up.
like pretty much just a cancer doctor, and what's really
I'm
sad
I
and
don't
ironic
do
is my zodiac sign is
Fine,
Cancer.
you can't curse on stream.
Can't curse on stream? What if I want to? Oh.
Well, then Ben will get in trouble.
Son!
Where did I put my phone?
where did you
Is
put
everyone
that
just like,
phone?
What
who
if
is
we
this
just use,
new
like,
person
not
that has
like-
entered?
I introduced.
I'll be
Ethan.
back.
Oh,
No one's
it's
actually
your
commented
case
yet.
phone.
Yeah, nobody's on it. That's why.
Here's
Oh my gosh, Protection 4.
So you're just
We
playing
should play
Minecraft?
Jack.
Yeah, I'm just playing Minecraft for whoever decides to pop in or not, whatnot.
Has anyone
Yeah.
else popped in yet, or are there 0 people?
Well,
No, nobody's
it's
popped
weird.
in.
Ah,
There's
great.
this website. You can go to the website on your phone and type in the code that's on Ben's screen, so we can all play a little fun trivia game.
Oh, are
Or,
you talking about Jackbox? Jackbox?
Oh, I know.
We should do that
We
in
usually
one.
do that on the Halloween thing.
Ben is
Yeah.
a Pisces.
Who's a Pisces? Ben. Quinn?
Wait, did you go downstairs and ask him? Wait, is he even
thing
here?
that Pisces is they're not mean?
What is?
that one of the
is
Pisces
that?
traits?
Like, what is that even? Like,
I don't know.
What happened
All
to
I know
face
about
cam?
Pisces is that
All
it's
I
a couple
care
of
about is
fish,
Quinn is
and
not-
that's all that matters. about
It's
it.
gone because some people don't want their face on stream.
Why are you doing that?
Also, welcome back. Welcome back, friends. How are you?
Naruto P, it's me again, Anna from yesterday.
Yeah, Anna's back as well.
I was the stupid one. That.
Yes!
What did you do?
Sharpness 5.
Oh, I know what you're gonna do.
Oh, that's why you're trading so much.
Yeah, I'm getting the greatest trades ever.
So you can murder me.
I'm gonna die if he actually lives.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow.
Wait,
What do we got now?
Steven lives next to me.
I see. Oh, JC, we're in Group Talk 049. Come say hi to all of us, random people.
I don't know who you are, but love you, boo.
Wow!
Yeah, I see. So you all see how much Anna's learned from her mother, right?
Oh,
got it.
she doesn't say boo though. I say boo and darling, which is weird.
Someone tell me.
Yes!
Occasionally, dear. I'm a weird human being. Got it. Who is
it's
it?
the actual face.
Guys, hold up. Hi, JC.
SpongeBob next to it,
See, this is a
which
car,
just
right?
makes it about 10 times
Guys, JC's on. JC's on.
What's up?
Oh, sorry, villain. Do you guys hear JC right now?
He sounds so weird.
There we go.
Yeah.
Wait, what? How are you coming home?
Yeah, so
Blowing into
this is my friend JC.
Your mom's house.
Come on in.
Hello, Jutta. Anybody seen Mac?
No.
Did you lose Mac?
Oh, yeah, I did take one.
Oh,
I
Jesus, father!
Oh, isn't stupid.
JC, what is happening?
Yeah, we can barely hear you, JC, just because everybody else is super loud.
No.
Here, JC.
Recording on there?
We should be able to hear you now. You know what? I'm just going to turn off my game volume.
Why is
No!
I don't understand.
JC,
So loud at the point your mic cuts off, Ben.
say that again.
It's so loud at the point your mic cuts off.
Yeah, I know, right?
Who is that?
This is my online friend JC. He's an absolute idiot, just like me.
That's my friend.
What is it? What does it, Ben?
Idiot.
The definition of anyone. Who wants to say hi to Kemper? Aiden, say hi to Kemper.
I love how quiet it's gotten.
I'm pretty sure he's a Virgo. I have a lot. Okay, Cody.
Why does that sound like the start to Jingle Bell Rock?
I don't know.
No, actually,
Oh wait, I don't need efficiency 5 anymore. Holy cow.
Callie. Cody's a Virgo.
I assume you got
Just let that
sharpness
seep in
5
that
so
he's on
you
the
can
cusp of
murder me.
Virgo. He is a Virgo.
Yeah, I can hear you, JC.
He seems more like a Libra, right?
Oh, JC's in died. You. Oh, hi.
Yeah. Do we have Aqua Fin?
Oh yeah. What do you? I was talking. That actually fits you so
Black moon.
So JC, you wanna wanna join us with for gossip?
I'm a Cancer, and apparently that means.
Oh, so Joe's got cancer now. Got it.
Right now, I'm exploring
Cancer
Minecraft.
is
Nice.
Because Cancer is a giant spacecraft whose astrological sign is a 69.
Cancer is called cancer for a reason because you're cancer.
that's the mega.
That is
That's
the
the
most
mega.
accidental meme I think the Greeks have ever
No you, JC, no you.
No, okay. And then there's all on TikTok, like legit, there's posts.
Oh, hey, you're talking with JC. This is JC, by the way.
Do you want to hear ASMR?
Okay, we got you.
And then it's like Cancer.
No.
Just now I'm uncomfortable to be next to you.
Cancer is cancer because cancer is cancer. Yeah, that's right.
Fun fact, this is not how Jet
That's exactly how a jet works. What are you talking about?
I'm pretty sure they just
Guys, like the photos
right
I
off the
got
back
last
of the
night.
truck.
Wow, gorgeous. What the hell?
I still think he's farting into the
like
microphone. It sounds like he's
Australia.
farting into the microphone.
On fire.
It's Australia.
On fire.
When you're
So yeah, JC, say hello to everyone. We've got Ethan, we got whoever, we've got Callie, we've got my sister, we've got Anna, we got Trinity, and we got Vincent.
Trinity trying to scare. Don't even
I don't
If
fit in.
your parents have put my microphone volume to maximum,
I can't hear you anymore, JC. It's got too many people I know, right?
So I was sorry,
Okay, Zoomer.
Okay, Boomer.
As you say that, I told okay, boomer.
What's the other one?
Okay, Boomer.
Understand. What is the purpose of doing this? What does this accomplish? What does this accomplish?
To fit into its box. The wings would be like this, so it can fit in the box. Also, it's good for when you're like making a good game.
JC,
You're
you're
having
hurting
so
my
much fun, and
mind.
then it's like, oh shoot, I've been shut down. JC, please.
And the angle is
Oh yeah, we have to lean up against the chair. Oh guys, this is my cousin.
Wait, did you put your cousin in a video that's on the internet?
Crunk 90s, yes.
So I can see it.
Wait, why does Aiden
Uh,
touch your house every block? Like, a lot.
okay, enough of the nonsense. Everything is going to absolute, you know,
everything's going to absolute heck.
yes. I threaten you guys with a mod of my very own.
Is this Fortnite? No.
Aiden Boyd.
It's Roblox.
Wait, which one dated Kylie
McCutcheon.
Yeah, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. I don't want
and
to
then it
fight.
shoots it?
Coppin? Oh, yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
That's great.
No.
I'm having a contraption.
Where is...
Oh, a contraction as in pregnant?
No, contraption.
Where is this?
Don't worry
Also,
about
what
it.
have you children been doing that your hair is a spoon?
I know, right?
They've been green screening.
Wait, here, wait.
What?
Wait, I want to take a
That
picture.
sounds like it's something I don't want to know.
What is that?
I'm not doing it. Okay, I just want to
that's
show you. I want to show you guys a fridge. right now. Okay. See.
How much iron have we gotten?
Now.
Oh, geez, that's a good amount.
Jordan, this is partially here's the
Leather.
best part.
I got books now.
Eden, I know you and my cousin would get along.
I don't want to fight.
Clearly.
I don't want to fight. The reason I came here in diamond armor.
I love how it says Flash.
Yeah.
My favorite part was Tim
Ah,
Ben.
great.
Ben,
What?
did you see when Tim, he like came up to me and Lydia, put an armor on each of us? He's like, when I look at you guys, I can't tell which is which. Like, which is Jordan, which is Lydia? You guys look so alike.
I remember that.
How
You
Lydia
do.
and Jordan look alike?
Not your sister. Not your sister.
Wait, what?
Okay.
Old ladies suck. Unintelligible noises.
Okay, Boomer.
Okay, boomer.
I prefer,
Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer. Okay,
guys,
boomer.
guys, I prefer the true boomer, the creeper.
Anything alike.
The creeper.
Oh, wow.
The true boomer
Her without
is a creeper.
makeup, maybe. She wears a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
Pregnant women are just women who ate a people.
Glad that you're jealous.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not jealous. That's so true.
I don't think that's how it works.
Women are just women.
No. Guys,
wait.
hold up.
What?
Pregnant women are just women who ate a people.
It's confirmed boys can get pregnant now.
Hey.
From a certain not mouth that's
So those are my two cousins.
Wow.
That's better.
That actually makes sense.
Boom. Mind blown.
Okay, boomer.
No.
Stop.
No.
So
The stale bread is for the French bread soup.
Wow,
What?
this toy is kind of dark. You turn it
Oh,
off
no,
by
no.
snapping the
I
driver's
just saw
neck.
bread. And it was other bread, so I just ate it. And then
Whoa.
oh.
Too real.
Oh my
You
god.
got storm drained.
Oh.
Bug brain thoughts. Yeah.
Okay, boomer.
Why did you playing it?
Nobody cares.
It is okay,
Griffin is
boomer.
the best in the middle of
Oh
that.
yeah, Griffin's.
Time's taken Monday. Shut up.
Sorry.
What is happening?
I don't know.
My sister's on TikTok.
Ah!
Oh, hi, JC.
Who wants some real ASMR?
No!
Don't fart on the mic.
God.
I like how that's the first
I
time
will review if I need to.
In the mic.
Guys, do you want me to do it?
Please get them all to shut up, please.
3, 2.
Everybody, take cover.
That's not bad. How did you see?
What is
Oh.
JC, you're hurting my mind.
That is him eating. He's doing ASMR. I don't know. Probably
Ben,
some chips.
2, 4, 4, 5,
eating?
fun.
Yes. Oh yeah. I got it.
What was that?
Ah!
He's shirtless.
ASMR!
His videos. This is lovely.
I know, right? Nobody cares about TikTok. Excuse me.
Is everybody done?
No.
They're still watching TikTok.
I'm not.
Okay, just watch your technology.
ASMR with chips.
You want more?
I'm sorry, who just volunteered as tribute? Because I will murder you right now. So, Joe,
TikTok is cancer.
yeah, TikTok is cancer, my friends.
The big freaky bit my finger.
Sorry if I'm saying something.
That's not funny.
What?
Certainly dog.
Sorry, I was talking to my friend. He's not funny.
Who's recording this then?
Alright, where's the Depth Strider 3? There it is. Beautiful.
No. Wow.
I need that efficiency 5.
What?
Beautiful.
Wait,
Efficiency
Ben,
5.
so you have Surviving Mars, right? Correct?
Yeah.
There, you could download mods for it, apparently.
Yeah, I know. I have.
Mm.
Shut up, Heather.
So fun to be at work.
Oh
Heather,
boy.
sorry, Heather. Look who's with her.
Hey! No!
Farming Valley.
You know what? How about this? All of us, let's just have a moment of silence because it's too loud.
A moment of silence, you say?
Yes.
We love coronavirus.
Like, math on Saturday is actually very impressive.
What to do? What?
I'm seeing videos of Aiden dancing.
Oh yeah, Aiden, where are you at the musical last week?
No, I want to get my nails in, but I
Do tainted?
I cut my nails because there's the thing. It has to go.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Tainted amazing. I would. Okay, so Savannah
Get masks to keep you from getting coronavirus, that says made in China.
That's great. I had to unroll his. The only reason why I saw Tate's outfit is because we were doing the thing at
Yeah, no, that's why.
Burton's for.
That's when Jocelyn told me Tate's outfit, which was crazy. And I was
Boom.
not expecting what he came out.
Wait a second, was that my horse you were on?
I didn't mean to call him a horse.
And like, that was
Alright,
he
okay,
went
you
to
know
grab onto
what,
it,
yeah.
and so then it opened.
Dang it, I need experience. Okay, well, to the skeleton farm.
What the hell?
After school snack.
Alright, children, it's time to turn off the
I
motorcycle
think
toys.
this is the one
Ah!
for the people who asked.
So it was kind of
Whoa, mate.
because we're all supposed to
There
put
we
each
go.
other's legs in a newspaper and find the tutorials.
Wait, what? How do you do
It says ew.
Well, I don't really know how to.
Alright, thank goodness it's calmed down now.
Not really.
And then there's Jace.
Best thing is I can just server mute him again.
Traffic
People are
deaths
murdered.
this year. I know.
Oh.
But I
Tell women that if they don't stop watching TikTok, you're going to eat a cat or a dog.
need to.
Joe, if you don't stop watching TikTok, I'm going to eat Jones.
Well, that's your choice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Go ahead, do it.
Oh, I've done all I can do.
Music. I thought it was nothing.
What are those?
What are those? Yes.
Target spotted. Playing from above.
Enemy spotted.
Enemy AC 130 above.
Oh, okay. Because I was like,
You have no idea what that actually means. You've never played.
I know.
Doris Green.
Why are you just
expired
making
3 years
paper?
ago. Now here's what
I don't
would
know.
Oh, I see. Wait. Deported.
oh
What?
my god.
I'm sorry, what?
Deported.
You added me on Xbox? Alright, I'll get to that in a moment. I just need experience.
What is that noise?
What noise? This noise?
Oh, wait, okay, I found out why.
What? Oh, sorry, bud, you can't. This is a private SMP.
Nah, it's because.
Worms on strings.
What?
Do you have any worms on strings?
No.
Well, that's depressing. Give me that for my birthday, please.
Sorry, friends, you can't join me. This is a private SMP, and we're currently full on members.
I don't believe you. I know you have a worm on string.
Well, I don't know what that is.
A worm on a string!
No, I don't. Oh, those things I did. They're now in your room.
They are.
I
They went right ahead and they said,
What?
I'm gonna build something out of only 3 Legos.
Yeah. SMP. Survival multiplayer. Survival multiplayer. That's what an SMP is.
Where's the internet gone?
You have totally don't know the song.
Chaotic. And it's usually throughout the whole thing.
You don't know the song.
Oh my god! Where's them?
So then why are you singing it? Can you make a public one? Maybe. That can be quite tricky. I'm already running one server off of my computer and an SCPSL server, so 2 Minecraft servers, that might be a little much.
Because I've never had a celebrity crush. I've never had.
Good, neither have I.
Want me to do it again?
Oh, I have a crush right now.
Okay, I am good down here.
How is that? I need an explanation about how
Ben,
someone
what?
got a crush on someone they know.
Want me to do it again?
Do what?
Yes or no? Just simple question.
No.
Clearly, you don't actually have a crush on him if you're just like, yeah, I hate him and he's an
No,
ass.
I don't hate him. He's just so stupid.
Wow.
How can you
crush
your
it?
logic?
I don't understand
So,
how.
I
I
don't
understand
Have
attraction.
you not noticed? Okay, everybody I've ever had a crush on.
Dude, I've got the best pickaxe in the world.
Let's just talk about one person.
Good for you.
When I liked Cody, stupid he is.
What pickaxe is that?
This has Unbreaking 3, Silk Touch 1, Mending, and Efficiency 5.
That's good,
But
man.
if you're
That's good.
admit it to yourself now,
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, you requested that song again.
find someone that you like can't find a flaw with.
I did,
Guys, shut up, it's song time.
find someone that you don't find
I don't know what it is. You're gonna give me another copyright strike.
Don't leave that.
I got friends that
Okay, you can cancel it. You can cancel it. Go ahead.
Nah, it's fine. I deal with those like super easily. Somebody requested a song,
A public one, what?
a public Minecraft server.
Over.
That's
Are you
like,
going to?
no, I've already. That's going to be too much for me, my computer to handle.
Guys, Jordan.
Everybody here is bang out.
Comic said it, so it is 100%.
Can I eat a villager? No, please don't. These are my villagers. Aqua Affinity. Ooh.
Here's some paper if you like. Ben, here's some paper.
Okay. Thank you.
It's only 8, but it's all I had.
Tell a woman that if they don't stop.
All right, what do you have for sale? All right, do you mind moving, please? I need to do this.
Sure.
All right, you have bookshelves. No.
Woman.
Can I eat a person on the server? Yeah, go ahead and eat Vincent, please.
I'm sorry.
Are you gonna make Minecraft server?
What?
Respiration 2?
Sorry, say that again. I can barely hear you over all the noise.
Are you gonna make me open my house?
Probably not. I'm already running this server that I'm currently on.
No, to us.
So-
1, 2, 3, 4. Please do not eat me, even though Ben requested it.
Please do eat him.
No!
Eat him.
No!
Do it.
No!
Do it.
No!
Do it.
I need A1 or barbecue sauce. Sorry.
Are you challenging me, mortal?
I'm not.
Okay, good.
What is this song?
I don't know.
It's so weird. It's a party in here. There are frogs. It is killing me.
Good. What did I tell you about walking on the glass?
I'll fix it.
No walking on the glass. Got it?
I'm walking on the wall so I can put them back.
No, you can't.
I like
Oh
down
my god.
downstairs.
No.
Parents made me vacuum yesterday, so we better go down there.
Okay, let's go now.
But like, okay.
Are you all heading to the basement?
Olivia Rodrigo.
Yes.
Yeah, so that you can continue your
Now you don't
All
have
right.
to deal with our live chaotic energy.
Bye, everyone.
You're welcome.
And she seems
I know
always
you'll
get
miss
what she
me,
wants.
but
Being
you'll
as a
get me again.
character is just-
You know what? I'll probably find a way to bring the stream downstairs.
Somehow, yeah.
All right. Well, now it's quiet.
Very.
Yeah, except for JC eating. Yeah, JC, we can have.
Wait, what?
We can hear you now. Everybody else is gone. Give me good enchantments. I know you gave me mending, which
So
is
you
a
can
really-
hear me now, huh?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, I'm doing Farming Valley, the mod
Nice.
for Minecraft.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, GC.
Hello.
Hello. Just.
Jeez, the chaos has really dimmed down, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What's up?
Yep.
What the?
You should set a building.
Hold on.
You should set? Did you just say we should
I'm
set a building
sorry.
on fire?
Ah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
He knows.
¿dónde está, güey?
¿Dónde está? Muy bien, gracias.
Alright. Oh,
You just said, where is the very good thank you?
I know.
Depends. Is the meat tender or medium or well? I'm not sure. Oh no.
No. Why have they done this?
It's JC. There is no other reason.
What is that song? I haven't heard it.
Oh, I guess it's an anime song.
It's anime.
I don't watch anime, so I didn't realize.
I watch anime.
Oh.
It is so peaceful in here.
Besides the music, you mean?
Yeah, besides music.
Oh, hello, Katie.
Where is everyone?
They went downstairs.
Like way down.
You know what? I'm going to find out how to bring the stream downstairs. Let me grab my phone and search up for streaming tools. Yeah, I don't know how well the meat's done. How well do you like your meat done?
How do I?
How do you like your meat done? I think you just went downstairs.
How do I like my what?
Your meat.
My
Like
meat.
steak.
Oh, like cooked and sometimes fried. Deep fried.
No. Do you like it well done? You know what? Let's just say it's well done. So, do you still want to eat him or not?
Wake up.
No. I don't want to. Ooh.
We could do that.
Explosion. Alright. Oh, why am I up to 3 viewers? Explanation, please. Alright, let me look for a streaming app.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, you could get Streamlabs on the phone.
No.
Apparently.
Wow.
¿Qué pasó?
No way! Dude, Stream Elements on the phone, dude.
Stream Elements on the phone?
Yeah.
And what does that give you?
You're really quiet? Yeah, it's because, my voice is dead and, I'm using a headset microphone because it's the only mic I currently have, so not much else I can really do. Sorry.
So peaceful.
I know, right?
Oh boy. I don't really want to know how many emeralds I just got.
So what you got there, JC? Whoa. Whoa, I can stream on my phone. Holy cow. Although I don't think it can go to YouTube. Hold up.
Wait, so you go stream through your phone?
Yeah, I'm streaming through my phone.
Oh, really?
Well, not yet at least.
I suspected.
I'm still trying to figure out how to set it all up.
Wait, how do you get it?
Just search it up on the App Store.
Oh. Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you mean. That's been up for like quite a bit.
Huh.
My mom's going crazy.
I'm playing Naruto
You're right.
Ultimate Ninja Storm
right,
4.
yeah.
Awesome. Oh,
They
for
also
those.
have Streamlabs.
Huh?
They also have Streamlabs on your phone.
Yeah, I know.
I prefer Stream Elements.
Yeah, same. Okay. So can I not add overlays? Oh, that sucks.
I have some stuff for you.
Alright, yeah, I think I'll figure this out.
What are you eating?
Alright, well, stream. We'll be right back in a moment. We are heading down to where the party is. Yeah, just wait until then. I'll be live, sadly, only on Twitch this time. Alright, JC, you will be able to talk with us again.
Okay.
So I'll be back in a short moment.
I was gonna give you some things.